Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Say! It's Miller time! Welcome to Miller Time, a new segment on the show where we chronicle the ever-growing insanity of comic book writer Frank Miller. Who's Frank Miller? Well, here's something we can thank him for.
This is Sparta!
And this!
I don't know about you, but I'm having a ball.
And let's not forget how he whizzed on Will Eisner's grave with this!
She is my mother. She is my lover.
Also, RoboCop 3. But we're not here to talk about the stupid movies based off of his work or the movies he's written, but rather his comics. Frank Miller first got big attention with Daredevil, reinventing the character into the more grim and gritty version that we got to enjoy during his fight with the Surgeon General. He also got major props behind him for The Dark Knight Returns, another book that, like Watchmen, was heralded at its time as one of the most brilliant ever created, but we'll get to that when we review The Dark Knight Strikes Again. But then somewhere along the way, well, Frank Miller went kinda cuckoo. I attribute it to Sin City. Oh sure, Sin City is a fairly interesting take on noir styles in comics, and some of the stories are even entertaining, but it set a precedent for him that I don't think he's ever gotten away from. All of his artwork since Sin City has followed this same blocky noir style, even when it's in color. Sin City established the idea that he couldn't write a female character who wasn't a prostitute. He spent so much time working on Sin City that it's become his standard mode of writing, with choppy, brief sentences that have become a parody in themselves of the grim and gritty era, which he himself derided as stupid. In 1985, he said that Batman is as good and pure a superhero as you can find. Well, 20 years later, he seemed to have forgotten that. The Batman in this book is unheroic, psychotic, and in some parts seems pedophilic even. The All-Star books were meant to be DC's answer to Marvel's Ultimate Universe. New series depicting superheroes starting their careers in a modern setting without decades of continuity to discourage new readers. A new comic reader can start fresh without having to worry about extensive backstory and situations that they may have never heard of. And considering Frank Miller's more hits than misses track record with Batman, it seemed like a natural fit for him to write this series, right? Well, the All-Star books seem to have pretty much become a failure. Oh, don't get me wrong, All-Star Superman is frigging brilliant. I highly recommend it to anyone who wonders why anyone likes Superman. But All-Star Batgirl has apparently fallen through, All-Star Wonder Woman has been in development for years now, and All-Star Batman and Robin, despite being first published in September of 2009, still hasn't finished its 12-issue run. Yeah, in 4 years, they've only managed to get to issue 10. So for our first edition of Miller Time, let's dig into All-Star Batman and Robin number 1 and number 2.
Welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. Brodsky, you're not the smartest. Life out, you're not an artist. Anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he's a man punch, wears a birdie hat. Linkara, he has a magic gun. Where'd he purchase that? Linkara, coins, robots, Amazon for trucks. Linkara, this comic sucks. Linkara.
There are actually 2 covers available for issue 1, albeit promotional materials combined the 2 images into one, of the same Gotham City background, while one cover features Batman and the other Robin. I'm confused about why they felt the need to split the 2 characters so that they both had the cover devoted to them. I think it would make more sense actually to, as a buying incentive, have it be more like a 2-part cover that could be combined into one, but hey, what do I know? We start the action off with a young Dick Grayson performing a mid-air leap. I've got to tell you, while the writing is what kills this book instantly, it's beautifully drawn. Jim Lee is a fantastic artist, and while he delves into the cheesecake a little too often, he's still one of the best pencilers in the industry. Dick states in our ever-helpful narration boxes, "This should get me killed, but it won't. Not that I can breathe with my heart fighting it out with my Adam's apple just now." And suddenly I can't help but think of the Star Trek fight music playing as a 12-year-old heart and an Adam's apple duke it out in a boxing match. Dick goes on to talk about how much he loves his parents and how they'll always catch him, and in the last panel, it shows Dick with his arms spread wide, a happy smile on his face, and a narration box saying, "I fly." I actually have to admit, this opening sequence does work really well. However, the writing of Frank Miller rears its ugly head right here as Dick has apparently contracted Torgo syndrome. "They're always there for me. They always catch me. Mom and Dad, they always catch me. They're always there for me. They're always there for me." So wait, I'm confused. They're never there for you then? Flip the page, and now we have moved fully into Frank's fantasy world of how women are supposed to be. It's a full-page shot of the Millerverse Vicky Vale. She's strutting around a large apartment, with huge uncurtained windows behind her, in pink underwear and holding a martini. The narrator's caption gives us this helpful insight into her character. Vicky Vale, columnist, gadfly, dictating. She's trouble. The kind of trouble you want. The maiden-form woman. You'll never know where she'll turn up. And what is Miss Vale dictating? "So we got ourselves a man of steel in Metropolis. And why do we call him a man of steel? That does bring certain thoughts to mind. Like a steel pipe to the head! What magazine does she work for anyway? Superhero Innuendo Monthly? In this issue, Die Hard and the reason we want him fighting crime for us." As an aside, when people often cry sexism in comics because of skimpy outfits or skinny bodies, a common reaction is for people to cry out, "But men have it bad too! Men wear skin-tight outfits that show off muscular bodies that we can't hope to compare to!" Yeah, they don't really get the problem. It's not that the outfits are skimpy, it's impractical, but that's not the issue. The issue is that women are drawn that way purely for the titillation of the male reader. There is no friggin' reason for Vicky Vale to be sauntering around her apartment in her underwear. No reason! But perhaps I'm being too harsh on Frank. I mean, it's not like he's having Vicky Vale's ass talk to us or anything, and... oh, never mind. As for the text itself, Vicky continues talking about how Superman is so much better than Batman because of his mightier penis. "So Metropolis gets a man of steel, and what do we get in dear Gotham City? A damn flying rodent, who doesn't even fly." Wait, does he fly or doesn't he? She continues, "Sometimes I despair, dear reader. Sometimes life seems to hold no meaning. They get a man of steel. We get a flying rat. What's a poor girl to do?" Yes, ladies, if you can't find a hot guy in a superhero costume to get all squishy over, your life is pretty much over. Thanks, Frank! So after Vicky pulls a Jim Carrey by speaking through her rear about how much Bruce Wayne is hot, oh, irony, ha 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 ha, she's interrupted by her buzzer. It's Alfred, who says that Bruce Wayne is requesting her presence. And like Pavlov's dogs, Vicky scurries at the sound of a bell at the prospect of being with her man. In a 2-page spread, we see Vicky trying on a variety of perfectly reasonable outfits, albeit now she's also changed her lingerie to black for some reason. Throughout it, she says no less than 4 times, "I'm having a date with Bruce Wayne." She settles on a cleavage-exposing white outfit that even Emma Frost would blush at. Alfred informs her that they'll be attending the circus, and Vicky could care less since, as shown above, she only cares about the fact that "I'm having a date with Bruce Wayne. How cool is that?" But what our Vicky here doesn't know is that Bruce Wayne is actually a penniless movie theater clerk. Let's watch the wackiness! Cut back to the circus, and Dick is performing a complex maneuver. And what are his thoughts on the matter? "They're always there for me. They always catch me. I fly." We're 9 pages in, and besides for Vicky's penis monologue, I think we've had a grand total of 4 sentences in this story, which are repeated ad nauseum. Dick fails to grab the next swing bar and starts to fall, prompting audience members to start saying, "My God!" Yes, every single one of the speech balloons that are reactions to this just start off with, "My God!" And I start to wonder if this is supposed to be some kind of sermon. I will say happily that one of the balloons says, "My God, this is horrible," and making me think that the editor slipped that in to give their own commentary on the issue. Vicky is of course naturally worried about the child who is plummeting to his death, but Bruce reassures her that the kid knows what he's doing. Dick suddenly grabs a grappling hook and rope from his armpit, I guess, tosses it up to the swing bar, and manages to stop his free fall. Other than to show off that the kid already has talents that will come in handy when he becomes Robin, why isn't there a safety net for the trapeze? In other comics, I know it was said that they had removed it since this was supposed to be a complex, death-defying stunt to impress the audience, but no dialogue here indicates that's the case here. And while it's certainly cool that Dick can accomplish such a move, wouldn't a net be safer than storing a grappling hook in your armpit flesh? I mean, it's gotta be uncomfortable. Back to Vicky and Bruce, where Vicky comments that Dick's amazing, and in a very creepy moment, Bruce replies,
"Yeah, I've had my eye on him for a while. He's something, all right."
Vicky, for once acting like the woman she's supposed to be based on, questions him on that comment. However, she quickly succumbs back to the Vicky Vale of Earth Miller when Bruce smiles at her and replies,
"I've got an eye for talent."
Bruce Wayne, agent of NAMBLA. Vicky realizes something's up, but she's too gaga for Brucey to make the connection. I'm having a date with Bruce Wayne. I'm sorry, I can't follow this plot line. Is she on a date or something? The flying Graysons take a bow, but then suddenly bullets strike Dick's parents and kill them. What I don't understand is why they felt the necessity to change this little detail of Dick's origin story. Originally, mob boss Tony Zuko was trying to extort money out of the circus, and they refused to budge, so he put acid on the trapeze ropes, killing both of them. This would only leave circumstantial evidence pointing him to the crime. Instead, we now have a shooter who struck down the parents for reasons a new reader doesn't know, and is a major lapse in logic for the criminals, since anyone who brought a gun to the circus and then had to take aim to kill them, as well as they did, would have been spotted immediately committing the deed. Bruce slips off from a shocked Vicky Vale as he too falls prey to whatever mental disease has taken hold of the others, and repeats in his narration captions,
"There's no way out."
There is no way out of here. It will be dark soon. There is no way out of here.
It'll be dark soon.
No way.
apparently making us believe that Bruce can find a hidden spot to change amidst the chaos of a heavily packed circus tent. Frank has Batman suddenly appear and instantly find the shooter as he flees the scene. He tosses a batarang into the guy, and apparently he even puts snake poison on the edge of it. Batman identifies him as a minor thug.
Got myself a 6.5 foot long minnow. There's a lot of food chain to work my way up. But first, the kid, Dick Grayson, age 12.
No, you asshole! Don't interrogate him! Interrogate the shooter! There's something rotten in Gotham City. It wears a badge. Oh my god! Joe Friday has snapped! Vicky's trying to get the cops to get Dick Grayson, age 12, to a hospital, but the cops are strangely adamant about it. They say he's in good hands, but Vicky states, "Yeah, I've seen what you cops do with your hands. What girl in Gotham hasn't? And who knows what you do to little boys?" Vicky, he's a dirty cop. You really can't shame him. Furthermore, if Vicky's accusation is true, why in the hell is she writing a stupid gossip column about who's got the world's finest crotch when she could be printing the truth about Gotham's cops? The cop hits Vicky across the face and she spits blood out of her mouth. Gotham's finest. It wouldn't be ladylike to say finest at what? Considering her actions in the last few pages, I'm trying to figure out what exactly her definition of ladylike is. Actually acting like a competent individual for a moment, she commandeers Bruce's car and Alfred comes along for the ride. She pursues the cop car, assuming that the cops are planning on beating up Dick and that she can get photographic proof of the cops assaulting a defenseless minor, thus having a felony crime that would get Washington's attention. Dick argues with the cops about how his parents were murdered, but the cops tell him he's remembering it wrong. He even tells them that, "I saw the man who did it, and I can identify him." And again, I have to shake my head in disbelief since the cops wouldn't have had to rough up Dick if they had just cut the ropes instead of shooting them in the middle of a crowded circus tent. Furthermore, how the hell could Dick see who it was that did it? When his parents were shot, he was taking a bow with his eyes closed and only looked up when he heard the bullets being fired and hitting his parents in the backs of their heads. There were hundreds, if not thousands, in that tent. How in the heck could he have seen who did it after just glancing up? Vicky Vale thinks to herself, "I don't get it. Why kill two aerialists, then use the cops to do Lord knows what to their boy? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense." Vicky, I know it doesn't. Vicky, I know it doesn't. A swarm of bats suddenly flies down into the gulch where the cops have brought Dick. Vicky expounds about her own feelings on bats. I hate the country. I hate bats.
We can't stop here. This is bat country.
Bats suck. I don't even like bats and stuff. Bats are stupid. Batman tells us, I knew these cops would take the boy to the gulch, so I set up my sonics. Bats like my sonics. Personally, I thought Knuckles was kind of cool, but I haven't played in a while, so... What? Oh, well, I much prefer talking about old Sega games than I do about this. The bats attack the cops, who subsequently decide to flee. Batman stops the Sonics and... Oh my lord! He drives the Batmobile through the cop car and splits it in half! I am just... wow! The physics of it are baffling! The ethical implications are mind-numbing! The sheer mischaracterization of this has got me pining for the safe, reliable days of Youngblood! I will admit, upon looking at the special edition of this issue and the original script that Frank Miller had written, he only writes that the Batmobile should smash through the cop car and utterly demolish it. I'm just trying to wrap my head around how Jim Lee went from utterly demolish to slice the car in two! Speaking of which, here's what he had to say about Vicky Vale in her underpants. Broad panties and not 1 inch of clothing more. Walks, no, hell, she struts. Detail her bra, it'll drive them crazy, Jim. Give us an even better angle on the babe. She knows what she's got. Make them drool. Okay, Jim, I'm shameless. Let's go with an ass shot. Panties detailed. Balloons from above. We can't take our eyes off her, especially since she's got one fine ass. Class act, our Mr. Miller. Batman picks up Dick Grayson, age 12, by the collar and tells him, On your feet, soldier. You've just been drafted into a war. And you had better not be a fan of rock and roll music. Thus, our first issue ends. And somewhere, Bob Kane and Bill Finger are crying. For issue 2, besides for the awesome Jim Lee cover depicting Batman standing over a distraught Dick Grayson, an alternate cover was made available by Frank Miller himself. Confusingly, it features Dick Grayson as Robin with Batman's shadow over him while a blood splatter is spread across the comic page. Symbolic of the violent struggle of adolescents being forced to grow up in a harsh and violent world, or just a really lame cover? You make the call! So only a scant hour or so from his parents having been shot in front of him, Batman announced to Dick Grayson that he had been drafted into a war. We open the book on a confusing angle of the Batmobile driving up a really big hill, or a mountain, neither of which I knew were near Gotham, and overlooking the city below. Frank's schizophrenic writing is in full force here as he begins. From up here, Gotham City is beautiful. Aw, well now isn't that just nice and beautiful, like Edgar Allan Poe's Sweet Lenore? Okay, that's kind of weird, but before her small cough brought a spot of blood to her lip and the poet knew she was plagued. Doomed. Show of hands, anybody else really freaked out right now? I've just kidnapped a traumatized youngster. Strong boy. For his age, he's damn strong. And then I see a muffled "Urgh" word balloon coming from the Batmobile window, and suddenly my Bruce Wayne Agent of Nambla joke takes on a horrifying new reality. If you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go jab out my eyes and get brainwashed so I can get the horrible thoughts out of my head. As good and pure a superhero as you can find, Frank? On the next page, he continues his stream of consciousness writing as we see a rather confusing image of Batman's glove over half of Dick's face, while air jets within his glove expel some sort of gas from them. I suppose this is meant to calm him down, but then why is he covering his mouth and nose? Dick Grayson, aerialist, 12 years old, brave boy, damn strong. Not that he's got a prayer of escaping my grip, but he's strong. Is he strong?
Listen, bud, he's got radioactive blood.
Meanwhile, Alfred's trying to fix up Vicky Vale. Here now, dear, here now. Be still, don't fuss. Alfred Pennyworth, just getting started. Oh God, what's he doing to her? Curse you, Frank Miller! Is nothing sacred to you? Well, actually, it seems in the aftermath of Batman's murderous rampage through the cop car, Vicky crashed Bruce's car and banged herself up rather severely. Vicky's still in bad shape, but she tells Alfred that she remembers every goddamn thing, every goddamn moment. Boy, this comic has quite the potty mouth on it, doesn't it? I remember the kid, Dick Grayson, age 12. If you were confused about why I started to always refer to him as Dick Grayson, age 12, your answer's right here. Henceforth, anytime a character refers to Dick, they always have to mention his age for some reason. Vicky exposits, for those who were smart enough not to buy the first issue, I saw it all. Dick Grayson, age 12. He was brilliant. Brilliant. Somebody murdered his parents, right before his eyes. Brutally. Brutally. It was brutal. So, was it brutal? The narration caption explains to us who this is. Vicky Vale, columnist, bearing witness. Louis Lovehog, comic book reviewer, bearing the pain of this comic. Vicky continues to explain how Dick was taken by the cops like they had something to hide, and once again reminding me how if the cops had been responsible for the murder, they had less common sense than the Watergate burglars. And then Batman showed up and kidnapped him. Oh, and it was brutal apparently. As Vicky wonders why Batman would kidnap Dick Grayson, she thankfully falls unconscious so she can shut up. Back to Batman, where he explains about his world. My world. Welcome to my world, Dick Grayson. Bats and rats and warts. Warts? What? And all. You poor boy. You poor little bastard. Welcome to hell. Hell. Or the next best thing. Jeez, can you imagine anyone narrating their own life like this? I entered the dentist's office. It was cold. 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 Cold like the night my parents got their heads blown in. It's full of cavities and gingivitis and sharp, pointy things. Ow! Ow! Get a job, you hippie! Anyway, Batman explains that the gas was supposed to knock Dick unconscious. Well, maybe you shouldn't have put your hand over his mouth and nose then, moron! And instructs him to sleep. The world I'm gonna wake you up to will be no better than the world you already know. Well, he could have still had a fun, prosperous life if the circus had adopted him, but you kinda screwed over that after you kidnapped him, you jerk. Actually, I think he was planning on doing this even if his parents hadn't been killed. He did say that he had an eye on him. Dick realizes that Batman's not speaking with his own voice, but a fake one. It's like he's doing some lame-ass Clint Eastwood impersonation. Okay, I don't actually have a problem with Christian Bale's Batman voice, but here you go.
Where were the other drugs going? Do I look like a cop? Where are they? Where are they?
So sleep tight, punk. Punk is nothing but death and crime and the rage of a beast. Sleep tight, my ward. Huh? What's that? What the hell's a ward? Shut up, I'll do the talking here. Ooh, bat-owned! The worst part of all of this is that he keeps talking about putting Dick through hell, and he's smiling about it. Forgive my squirrely ignorance, but didn't Batman swear that he'd make sure that no one had to go through the same kind of crap he had to go through when his parents died? On the next page, the moment of truth. The moment everyone remembers this comic for. Dick Grayson asks, "Who the hell are you anyway, giving out orders like this?" To wit, Batman, the man who can breathe in space, the man who could take out Galactus if he had a week to plan, and the man who will never quit as long as he can still draw a breath, responds, "What are you, dense? Are you retarded or something? Who the hell do you think I am? I'm the goddamn Batman!" Ladies and gentlemen, we have an internet meme! Dick Grayson, age 12, is unimpressed with the goddamn Batman, and he slowly comes to realize that his parents were killed a few short hours ago. My parents were murdered! Somebody blew their brains out! And as if Frank Miller realized that he was giving Dick Grayson, age 12, too many lines, and not enough goddamn Batman, Dick also thinks, no, don't go there. Not now. Yeah, Frank, save the angsting for a comic that doesn't suck. Batman grumbles that the kid isn't getting scared no matter what he does. Bats, you just kidnapped him, shoved him in a car, and yelled at him about how you were going to make him your ward, and you were grinning about it. I think the kid is crapping his pants right now, but just doesn't want you to know about it. All of a sudden, police cars and motorcycle cops appear and start chasing down the Batmobile. Dick tries to get Batman to pull over, but he realizes that they aren't interested in arresting them anymore. I guess somebody on the force put out a kill order on me. Cool. It's about damn time. How many things are wrong with those sentences? First of all, Batman doesn't say cool. Ever. He doesn't have to. He's so cool, he doesn't need to acknowledge coolness anywhere else. Besides the point that he's too friggin' serious for it. Next, he's never gonna be happy that the police are chasing him down. He wants to have a good relationship with the Gotham PD so they don't get in his way when he's trying to take down criminals. And finally, Frank Miller has stated that this book takes place in the same universe as his Year One and Dark Knight Returns stories. Except during Year One, he didn't have Robin with him, and by the end of it, he was actively working with Gordon. As such, how in the hell did his relationship with the police get so sour after that? Oh, I'm sorry, I must be dense or retarded. I forgot that this comic makes no sense. Never mind, let's continue. Batman goes completely nuts then, swerving around and driving towards all the cops while he laughs in maniacal glee. Dick Grayson, age 12, is panicking, of course, as the pure good hero Batman just smashes into cop cars. To make this scene even more unbelievable, the Batmobile suddenly converts into a plane. No, I'm not kidding here. Seriously, I'm only 2 issues in, and almost every scene has a Whiskey Tango Foxtrot moment. Dick Grayson echoes my own sentiments as he cracks, and the Batman that Frank Miller wrote, the guy who caught Carrie Kelly in the air and told her she was a good soldier, the guy who once tried to rescue a cat from some shooting police officers, promptly slaps Dick Grayson. The next 3 pages are all 12 panels each and manage to fit a surprising amount of dialogue in them, albeit most of it is just them repeating themselves over and over. Batman scolds himself as he realizes he's being completely insane with Dick. What am I doing to this kid? Who the hell do I think I am? You're the goddamn... Screw it, you know where that was going. Oh hell, just look at him. Look at that adorable little face. Aww. Stop it. No doubts. Remember the mission. Nothing matters except the mission. He doesn't matter. You don't matter. Nothing matters except the mission. Honestly, is he speaking in haikus now or something? Of course he matters! This is ridiculous! In fact, this guy is so much not like Batman, I'm not going to refer to him as Batman anymore. In the original text review, I called him Beano, or Batman in name only. Well, that's not nearly adequate enough for this psycho. I hereby dub him Crazy Steve. Dick Grayson, age 12, wonders about the policeman. Those were cops down there. Back there. They were cops. What you gonna do, Crazy Steve? What you gonna do when they come for you? Crazy Steve tells him he's got a lot to learn about fighting crime, and Dick totally owns him again by pointing out that cops fight crime, and Crazy Steve totally killed some cops. As if Frank suddenly realized that nothing so far has made us want to empathize with the hobo wearing Batman's costume, Dick speculates in his thoughts that Batman is so lonely in his world and that when he doesn't talk, it's so quiet in the Batmobile. More Sin City-inspired lines ensue. He sucks air, and for a second it looks like he's got a razor blade stuck between his teeth. Ew? Then he talks, and it sounds like every word he says is a jagged chunk of glass that scrapes his throat on its way out. And if you ever wanted a reason to not start smoking, kids... Anyway, Crazy Steve talks about cops in Gotham. Never talk to cops. Not in Gotham. Never let a cop get near you. Not in Gotham. Dick Grayson, age 12, acknowledges what he's saying, and Crazy Steve says that there's only one cop worth a damn in Gotham City, and he's nowhere near this case. What's this? A reference to Jim Gordon in this fiasco? And here I was hoping he didn't exist anymore in Frank's confused little mind, because there's no way in hell Gordon would ever agree with anything Crazy Steve has been doing here. He talks about how he knows Dick has seen cops in other cities across the world and that most of them are decent, but Gotham City isn't like those places, and that's why most cities don't need him. Crazy Steve, there's no place in the world that needs you. They need Batman, not the lunatic who's using his name. Bruce says that Gotham might need Dick too. Be brave, Dick Grayson. Be brave. I don't know, putting up with you these last 2 issues shows that he's pretty brave. Dick thinks to himself about how Crazy Steve wants him to join his nutso crusade, and that fighting crime is a good way to get myself killed, and I wouldn't have any catchers this time. You know, come to think of it, at no point during the first issue did either of his parents catch him. In fact, when Dick did fall, he pulled a grappling hook out of his armpit and caught himself. So why in the heck is he so broken up about the catching thing? Anyway, Dick speculates in his head and asks his parents what to do, and we get a shot of his eye getting angry as he asks why they died and who killed them. Well, Crazy Steve might know, considering he caught the killer and pumped him full of snake poison, but somehow I doubt he'll mention that to Dick. Dick gets a determined look on his face, and our comic ends with him proclaiming, "Yes, sir, I'll be brave." Thus, issue 2 concludes with an angled-off Robin R symbol and the words, "To be continued," across the bottom. I'm not sure how I should feel about this last page. On one hand, this page could have been utilized earlier for honest character development for Vicky Vale, or even poking in on the criminals behind this nonsense. On the other hand, Frank would have probably screwed that up too, so it's probably good that we didn't get more of this insanity. These comics suck! There's no denying that they're beautifully drawn, but once again, great art can't make up for the horrifically awful writings of Frank Miller, and this is only the fairly recent stuff. Stay tuned in the months to come when we look at even more of his ramblings. Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Say! It's Miller time! Welcome once again to Miller Time, the segment where we try to unscramble the mad writings of comic book writer and artist Frank Miller. I've gotten a ton of requests from people to resume looking at All-Star Batman and Robin. Fair enough, it's just that since I've already done text reviews of the first 6 issues, I wanted to look at where his descent into mediocrity started for many. Hence why I reviewed The Dark Knight Strikes Again before we came back here. And here's actually where I have to bring another disappointment for people. See, issue 3 of Aspar does not have much of our gritty protagonist. Fortunately, issue 4 will more than make up for it, but I guess I should get people caught up. All-Star Batman and Robin is the tale of a psychotic, deranged Batman who kidnaps Dick Grayson, age 12, after his parents are brutally murdered at long distance by a handgun. Vicky Vale talked in her underwear for a while before getting into a car crash, and then Batman asked Dick Grayson, age 12, if he was retarded or something. Wonderful. Hence why it's perfectly clear that the cop-killing, ableist language-spewing man before us is actually a drunken hobo who has somehow knocked Batman out and stolen all of his gadgets. I call him Steve. So let's dig into All-Star Batman and Robin number 3 and number 4, and boy, this is not gonna be fun.
Welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. Brodsky, you're not the smartest. Life out, you're not an artist. Anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he's a man punch, wears a party hat. Linkara, he has a magic gun. Where'd he purchase that? Linkara, coins, robots, Amazons and trucks. Linkara, this comic sucks. Linkara.
Since I'm reading from the trade, we once again ignore the covers, though if you're interested in what I had to say about them, you can check my blog for the original reviews. When we last left off, Dick Grayson, age 12, had been convinced to join the fantabulous world of superheroes after Crazy Steve gave a soliloquy worthy of Shakespeare. If Shakespeare had been a murderous pedophile whose plays had been performed not before the Queen of England, but the Queen's Bar and Grill down the road. So, of course, one would think we'd be returning to that, right? Of course not, because now we are 6 months ago. It's a full-page shot of a fat, drunken loser walking out of a bar called the Black Canary and mumbling to himself in full Frank Miller-styled repeating dialogue. Who's that little piece of sass think she is? Cutting me off. Me! Don't you know who I am? You should know who I am! I'm sorry, Senator, but you just haven't paid your tab in a month. Here are the first words of the comic. A rotten joint. It sits there like something that came out of the back end of a horse. Which is precisely where this script came from, too. Two figures emerge from off-panel talking about the place. You're not gonna believe this, dipstick. You're not gonna believe your eyes. It better be fine, Dorothy. She better be fine. What, haven't you heard of the Wizard of Oz book, Dorothy and the Prostitute Village of Oz? We've been riding since midnight and my shorts are crawling up my backside. Ew? The narration box lets us know. The only people with any reason to be out this late are hookers and cops and losers. Well, you'd know all three of those, wouldn't you, Frank? When the two gentlemen enter, we can tell what kind of place this is. Essentially, it's a Hooters bar, but with the waitresses wearing the Black Canary costume instead of tight t-shirts and short orange hot pants. That's right, Frank has reduced a legacy character like the Black Canary, known as an eternal ass-kicker, extraordinarily competent superhero, and one of the stars of Gail Simone's series Birds of Prey, into a bartender at Hooters. Now, of course, there is nothing wrong with Hooters or the people who work there. I'm just saying Frank Miller has reduced an awesome superheroine into eye candy. And, of course, the dialogue shows that she's getting hit on from all sides along with normal drink orders. Surprisingly, there are even a few women at the bar who seem to be getting drinks, but knowing Frank, they're probably hitting on Black Canary too. Humorously, as Frank continues to talk about the people who are out this late, he brings up Black Canary herself along with a cartoon image of a stick of dynamite. This particular bartender's fuse is getting shorter by the moment. She's not the only one. We get a full shot of who I can only presume is Dinah Lance, given the costume, and she asks the two morons what their order is amidst all the flirtations of the other people at the bar. The narration doesn't help. Maybe she's having a bad night, or maybe it's something somebody said, or maybe it's something someone's about to say. Something in her gut is just aching to break out. Something unpleasant. Oh God, she's got a chest-buster alien! Run for your lives! The two losers push aside other people at the bar and ask for some drinks and then, in some censored scribbles, ask Dinah to do something that I'm sure is sexual in nature. In a legitimately funny moment, Dinah responds with, "As for that other service you gents requested of me, I'll leave it to you boys to provide for each other." Zing. Oh, and Black Canary's Irish now, too. Honestly, what is the point of this sequence to the series? Oh, and I do compliment Frank on a little more subtle satire here in the fact that one of the two idiots looks like Dinah's on and off boyfriend/husband, Green Arrow. Of course, this could actually just be the awesomeness of Jim Lee at work. We may never know. And yeah, I could comment on all of the narration, because there's plenty to make fun of, but if we did that, this episode would be the length of all three Lord of the Rings movies uncut and feature several essays and notes on how stupid everything here is. All I will comment on is this. In a bar with this kind of environment and the potential for something to happen, there's no bouncer nearby to keep things in line. Anyway, the other moron reaches over and grabs Black Canary's ass, and as such you can pretty much figure out what happens next. Yeah, the cartoon dynamite fuse runs out and Dinah does an aerial kick to both of the morons. Wait, huh? Okay, nothing of what we've seen so far of Black Canary indicates that she has the training to pull off a move like that. In fact, the dialogue says she left Monaghan and her mother, brothers, and sisters to come here. There's no trace of the normal Dinah Lance we know and love, the one who was trained by Wildcat and the Justice Society of America against her mother's wishes to become the next Black Canary. How can she do this? If she's just some regular Irish woman who came over, how the hell can she pull off this kind of martial arts crap? Do the Irish have secret ninja powers that they haven't told anybody about? Anyway, Dinah continues to go nuts as she attacks some random patron in the bar and performs another unbelievable move by doing a flip across the room and over several people and landing gracefully, on high heels no less. And all throughout her sudden freak out, Frank Miller subjects us to all the names Black Canary gets called on the job from the previous page, only now on the narration boxes. And for some reason, Hot Mama is used 3 times. Once more, I have to compliment Jim Lee's pencil, since we see Black Canary standing with her arms crossed, combining sexy and strong as she smiles at the bar patrons and announces, "It isn't near closing time, gents." And yes, I do apologize to my Irish fans because I do a crappy Irish accent. She then kicks some random bystander and says, "We're still open for business." Yeah, let's condone violence against assholes. Wait, are we even sure some of them actually called you names? Because as I said, there were women in the bar too. While it's one thing for Black Canary to legitimately punch the guy who grabbed her rear, maybe even yell at or hit the people who objectified her with their name-calling, she has gone completely wacko-jacko by attacking everyone in the bar. But you know what the worst of it is? This. It's not that what set her off. It's not the insults that these vermin pass off as flirtation. That's not what set her off. Oh, goody, so she doesn't even have a legitimate reason for her ass-kickery. It's a man. That's what set her off. A single, solitary man. A man who's got her thinking all different. A man she's never met. A man who stood up and said, "Enough." Because, you know, she couldn't be inspired to action out of a "I'm as mad as hell and I'm not gonna take it anymore" moment. No, she needed a man to do it for her. Also, I'm pretty sure this guy's spine is broken. Nice. The boss of the bar suddenly comes in because of the commotion and sees Black Canary stealing wallets off the unconscious patrons. Yes, not only is Black Canary in this comic someone who just randomly attacks with her secret ninja powers and can only take action when inspired by men, even if that action is complete overkill, but she's also a thief. Thanks, Frank. Dinah tenders her resignation and sees that the Oliver Queen lookalike is even wearing a wedding ring. So what does our heroic Black Canary do? She force-feeds him his own wedding ring. Folks, words fail me at the sheer level of unheroic behavior all of the heroes have exhibited here. This isn't even a cry for justice kind of thing where there's an ethical debate one could have about the necessity for extreme measures against supervillains or the like. This is just being a cruel jerk. And what was it that got into Dinah's head anyway? What made her throw off the chains of the job she could have just, quit and practically kill everyone in a bar? What man was it that inspired such behavior? Batman. And this, my friends, is the sound of my palm hitting my forehead. Sweet Chunks, the man is insane! What did you just call me?
Don't call me babe.
So, splash page of Guy getting thrown out a window, and then splash page of Dinah stealing a motorcycle that belonged to one of the bar patrons. Frank helpfully informs us that it is a roaring lion between her legs. Ah, and now our little segue into 6 months ago ends and we're in the now. Oh, and then Excursion lasted 14 friggin' pages! Over half the comic was devoted to a sequence that made no sense in the context of the greater story and depicted Black Canary as being just as psychotic and unheroic as Crazy Steve. This is supposed to be All-Star Batman and Robin, Frank. When we want All-Star Black Canary, we'll call Gail Simone. In any case, we finally return to the Flying Batmobile, where Steve's ever-deranged narrative boxes give us a keen insight into the Dark Knight detective's mind. I've kidnapped a traumatized youngster and drafted him into my holy war. And from that, I just have to ask, do you worship crime fighting? Is there some sort of god of vigilantism that you pray to? No? Then it's not a holy war, you moron! And now it's time for This Is Complete Bullcrap. Here's Dick Grayson, age 12's biography. Top of his class in just about every school his roving circus life took him to. Made black belt a few weeks before he turned 9. Really? Age 9? And he says he studied Dick before deciding to recruit him. Seriously, I'm starting to think Steve is the one who orchestrated Dick's parents' murder just so he could kidnap this kid. Aqualung. What? A Jethro Tull song? Now we know that Frank doesn't get Batman anymore. Batman hates rock and roll. The Batmoplane suddenly dives straight down into the water and transforms into a submarine. Dick Grayson, age 12, asks him what he calls the vehicle. Steve grins and we get this colorful dialogue. The Batmobile. That is totally queer. Steve scowls, downtrodden since the 12-year-old isn't impressed with his stellar naming skills, and promptly tells Dick to shut up.
My mom thinks it's cool. Oh wait, no she doesn't, because my parents are dead, just like your parents are dead!
Oh what? You know he'd do it if he thought of it. But enough of that scene, let's switch over to Metropolis 15 hours ago. On a carton of milk is a missing photo with Dick Grayson's picture on it. At no point does it mention Batman, but we see that it's Clark Kent holding the carton, and he summarily crushes it. Wow, he must be Superman if he has the strength to crush liquid encased in cardboard. But anyway, my shock isn't that, but the fact that this is 15 hours ago. Think for a minute. That would have meant that Clark bought a carton of milk sometime between the time of the early morning and a few days prior during grocery shopping that featured Dick Grayson's picture on it, even though Crazy Steve only kidnapped him roughly an hour ago. And for the milk to have gotten to the grocery store to begin with would have taken a few days, which means the printing of the picture took place before then and... The non-logic is killing my puny human brain! I need some milk!
It just raises too many questions.
A copy of the Daily Planet is pushed under Clark's door for some reason, which has the words "Batnapped" written across the headline, and Clark, getting unnecessarily angry, uses his heat vision, shattering his glasses and burning the newspaper. And the logic centers of my brain once again go nuts, since if this was 15 hours ago, that means that Crazy Steve and Dick Grayson, age 12, have been driving for 15 hours since Dick's kidnapping, since it would have taken some time for them to write an article about it that took up so much of the front page. On top of that, if Clark didn't know about the kidnapping until he read the paper, then why did he crush the milk carton? I can't even begin to think how this is supposed to make sense unless the criminals that were responsible for this had so much pull in Gotham and Metropolis as to manipulate policemen, newspapers, and milk companies to report about a kidnapping that had occurred before it ever happened. It's especially odd since they had planned on killing Dick for some unknown reason. The only other explanation is that Steve and Dick have been driving around for hours, which would explain why Dick went from "I'll be brave" to "that is totally queer," but it makes my feeble brain even more confused. Okay, let's move on with the story. What the hell? After the panel of Clark proclaiming, "Damn, Jim Lee is wasted on this tripe," we flip the page only to discover the Superman symbol. What is even the hell? 14 pages of Black Canary, 2 pages of Clark Kent, and only 4 pages of Steve? Admittedly, this means less of the bizarre hobo that calls itself Batman, but still, did Frank even understand what it was he was supposed to be writing? As an interlude before we continue, this series began around 2005, stopped in 2008, and was supposed to continue again in February of this year as Dark Knight, Boy Wonder. Still hasn't happened yet, and I don't think it ever will. Issue 4 begins with a Batman symbol engulfed in flames, an apt metaphor for this series. We check up on Vicky Vale, who's apparently now in a hospital, and she's dying pretty rapidly. Dialogue informs us that her left ventricle's been punctured by a bone. We see Vicky flailing about on her bed. Now, I'm not a doctor, but it seems to me that in cases like this, a flailing patient is probably the last thing you want if you're going to be performing surgery to remove bones from hearts. Shouldn't they be giving her a sedative or at least restraining her while they work? Vicky's eyes roll into the back of her head and the heart monitor flatlines. Hey, another metaphor for this series, revealing that it seems she's died. But enough of that scene. It's time to check back in with the guy that Frank didn't care about in the last issue. What, no interludes with the Flash, who in this I'm sure is a drug-crazed extortionist? No checking in with Green Lantern, who is no doubt a KKK member who devours the hearts of young girls after molesting them? In any case, Dick Grayson brings us up to speed. Batman's completely nuts. No! What gave you that idea? Dick tells him about how he's about to drive into a bunch of rocks, but Steve just smiles that whiskey smile of his and tells him he doesn't know anything. Turns out there's a hologram hiding the entrance to the Batcave, and the Bat-Sub flies in.
I've had my eye on this Grayson for months. He's the most promising candidate for the job I've seen.
I wonder if he hired a temp while he waited for someone to fill the position.
Still, I'd have waited years before recruiting him. At least until he's old enough to shave. I'd have waited years. But some soulless slob with a gun changed the whole equation.
Well, you heard it from the guy himself, folks. He would have killed Dick's parents himself in a few years so he could draft Dick into his war. The Batmo-Sub rises up and Dick yells, "When are you gonna let me out of this thing? It feels like it's been days." Well, considering the whole milk carton thing from the previous issue, it wouldn't surprise me if he was in there for days. What we have next is something really gratuitous and unnecessary, highlighting Frank's laziness as a writer. A 6-page spread of the Batcave. In my original review of this, I praised Jim Lee for saving us from 6 more pages of dialogue, but this is just stupid. There's no reason this needs to be here, and it comes off as an attempt at spectacle instead of proper sequential art. Dick Grayson is, of course, stunned silent by the grandeur of it all, and once again Frank Miller embarrasses us all when he gives us Steve's child molester grin and asks Dick,
"Is this cool or what?"
Dick, trying to play it smooth, replies, "Yeah, I guess it's okay. I mean, I've seen better, but I guess this is okay." How often do you find yourself in superhero caves? No, I don't care how smooth you're trying to play it. That was a stupid thing to say. Crazy Steve clamps up, obviously put down because the 12-year-old boy isn't impressed with his crib. Yup, he's the goddamn Batman, but dang it, he put a lot of work into this. Steve gets a call from Alfred at the hospital, who reports that Vicky Vale isn't in good shape, but she is alive. During this, we see in the background that robot lasers are shooting the dinosaur prop in the cave for some reason. Crazy Steve orders Alfred to
"Get Eckhart in Paris. Get him there. He can do anything."
Alfred informs him that Eckhart wouldn't be able to get there in time, but Steve tells him to
"Get that clown in Metropolis to fetch him."
Oh Lord, what I wouldn't give for some clowns right now. Steve takes a moment to talk about how much better he is than Superman. Yes, a woman is about to die from bones puncturing her organs. You've kidnapped a 12-year-old child whose parents were just killed in front of him, but now it's the time to compare sizes with the Man of Steel. And by the way, Crazy Steve, I don't know who this Eckhart guy is, but REM taught us that Superman can do anything.
That's right, Kent. You're busted. I know who you are, and you've got no damn idea who I am.
X-ray vision, anyone?
I'm a detective.
No, Sherlock Holmes is a detective. Encyclopedia Brown is a detective. You're a loser who kidnapped a young boy and creepily refer to him as your ward. You haven't done one friggin' bit of detective work since you started this comic.
I can't leap tall buildings with a single bound, but I'm smart. One hell of a lot smarter than you'll ever be.
In All-Star Batman and Robin, Batman kills, maims, kidnaps, and extorts. In All-Star Superman, Superman cures cancer. Yeah, point goes to the Man of Tomorrow. Dick asks if he can get a change of clothes. I mean, tights really blow chunks. Steve gives him a look that makes me think he's about to slap Dick, once again showing that he gives a rat's ass about whether or not the little kid thinks he's cool or not. But Dick continues with, "Sorry, it's just I'm all sweaty and dirty." No, Dick, you'll just make him want to molest you more! And I've still got Mom and Dad's blood and stuff all over me. Steve's narration caption gives us another example of disgust, shock, and horror, for the reader anyway, with this line.
I touched my mother's breast. It bled on me.
Captain Picard, I need you again! Thank you!
I heard her cough her last, and I pressed my hand against my mother's breast just in case there was any hope at all, and there wasn't any heartbeat.
So not only is he a pedophile, but he was involved in an incestuous relationship with his mother? Anyone think that aspect of the origin story is going to be used by future writers? Dick's narration captions continue. His hand lands on my shoulder, weightless as a falling leaf. Damn it, Frank, this is no time for your blasted haikus! Those big-ass fingers of his squeeze like a gentle caress. Oh my god! Dick wants to be molested as much as Steve wants to do it! I think I'm gonna be sick. Steve says he'll get him some new clothes and tells Dick he's leaving to go to work. Dick Grayson, age 12, asks what he's supposed to do now, and Crazy Steve says he can do whatever he wants. Maybe this is why the Batcave has all the laser things shooting out. Steve routinely kidnaps young boys and lets them play in the Batcave until they get killed and the machines have to clean it all up. Dick asks what he's supposed to do for food, and he replies that there's plenty of food around him and that it'll present itself to him. At that moment, we get shots of a bat and a rat, clearly telling Dick that he's meant to be eating the animals in the cave. The goddamn Batman wants his ward to eat cave rats. Thanks, Steve. Eating the stringy, rabies-infected, living in its own filth rodent will do wonders for Dick's health and agility. The artwork, possibly the most symbolic so far, shows us Dick sitting in a fetal position with his shadow coming out and the rat about a foot away from him. Then I guess I doze. Batman is a creep. I hate his guts. Personally, I don't like his personality, but I guess any part of him is really unlikable. We switch back briefly to Superman as he, for some unknown reason, is now carrying the car across the water as he continues to run across it. He also gives off his trademark catchphrase of, "Damn!" And scene. Brilliant, we really needed to see that. We switch over to a confusing shot of Steve punching a police officer in the company of who I presume to be a prostitute. Yes, all of 4 women have been shown in this series. The first was Vicky Vale, who we've seen to be obsessed with superhero penises and is now dying. The second was Dick Grayson's mom, who was murdered. The third was an Irish ninja who beat up an entire bar full of people and stole a bunch of stuff. And now the fourth is just some background prostitute. Make your own conclusions. Anywho, Crazy Steve is punching this guy and proclaims for no logical reason, "Ha!" Followed up by, "So what's the story on Jocko Boy, officer?" Who is this guy? Who's Jocko Boy? What is happening? The officer responds that the whole thing is rigged. He walks tomorrow. Lack of evidence. That's all I know. Steve says, "Thanks," and we see a crunch sound effect while his arm is extending down off the panel, leading me to conclude that he just crushed a human skull with his own hands. Dick wakes up to discover he's now in pajamas. Oh god, Alfred's just as sick as Steve, and discovers a tray of food nearby. He gobbles it up happily and thinks that there must be somebody nice around here. Yeah, somebody nice who had no problem stripping you naked while you slept. I feel dirty just having to read this stuff. Crazy Steve assaults Alfred, slamming him against the cave wall and yelling, "What the hell do you think you're doing, Alfred?" And if you had any lingering doubts about this not being Batman, this scene should clinch it. Batman has gotten angry at Alfred before in moments of sudden emotion, but nothing like this. Knocking Alfred around, the man who raised him as a surrogate father because he showed some compassion to a little kid? This comic can go straight to hell. Alfred says that he won't allow Dick to eat rats, and Steve says that he himself was reduced to it? At what point in Batman's training around the world did he ever get sent into a cave and was forced to eat a whole bunch of rats to survive? I think we might have missed that issue. Alfred proclaims proudly that he is not Steve's slave and will do what he wants. And so our comic ends with Steve walking away grumbling, with the narration boxes saying, "Alfred just told me to take a flying leap." I thought he said he wasn't your slave. Were you under the impression that he was? There's so much not to like about this guy. This little brat is going to ruin everything. Hey, you're the one who kidnapped him, asshole. These comics are horrible! The only joy you could possibly have is in laughing at how atrocious they are! How this ever made it past the editors, I may never know. Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Say... It's Miller time! Yeah, it's been a while since the last Miller time, hasn't it? It's not intentional, it's just the last time I talked about Frank Miller, I was actually rather nice to the guy, since RoboCop vs. the Terminator #1 was an okay comic. But then people kept requesting this and Holy Terror, and well, I was reminded why I hate this racist, misogynistic sack of crap to begin with. People have been wondering if I've seen The Dark Knight Returns straight-to-DVD movies. I have not seen them, and while I probably will at some point, I don't really care all that much. I thought we'd established by now that I care more about the comics than I do any adaptations of them. I'm sure they're quite good, mostly because the original story comes from before that brain parasite got inside of Frank Miller's head and began sucking away anything that made him rational and reasonable. Anyway, our story so far. An escaped mental patient named Steve found Batman's outfit and came across a lottery ticket that allowed him to get rich and thus pretend that he's Batman. As a result, he has kidnapped a young boy whose parents were killed at a circus performance and murdered several police officers. Then we had a random tangent to Black Canary that will kinda sorta be paid off in stupid ways in another issue. Black Canary in this comic is a random kung fu wielding Irish ninja who worked in the worst bar ever, and I'm pretty sure she killed some innocent people too. Vicky Vale was injured and is at the hospital, and Superman said "damn" a whole lot. I'm sure there was more to it than that, but thanks to all the alcohol I ingested during my reviews of the Marvel comics, I tend to black out a bit on some memories. So let's dig into All-Star Batman and Robin #5 and see what Frankie's got for us this time.
Welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. Brodsky, you're not the smartest. Life out, you're not an artist. Anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he's a man, punch, wears a birdie hat. Linkara, he has a magic gun. Where'd he purchase that? Linkara, coins, robots, Amazon and trucks. Linkara, this comic sucks. Linkara.
While I'm reading from a trade, sometimes the original comic covers do make me slap my head enough that I want to briefly talk about them. In this case, Ass Bar #5 had two crappy covers to it. The first was a Jim Lee drawing of Batman with random blood splatters. Whoopity-doo. The second was the Frank Miller drawing of Wonder Woman's ass. Well, Wonder Woman's ass, as well as her spine twisting in two painful directions, and some kind of corset thing that I'm sure is supposed to be her outfit, but, you know, isn't. Not even close. Also, where the hell are her arms? Even if she was holding them straight up, we should be able to see something. Well, I know why we can't see her arms. If we saw her arms, we probably wouldn't be able to see that one breast right there. And it was so important to this cover that we saw it. Anyway, back to Wonder Woman's ass. It really goes to show how much respect Frankie Boy has for an enduring feminist icon, and probably the most well-known mainstream superheroine aside from Batgirl. And Batgirl, as awesome as she is still a distaff counterpart to Batman. You know, it's an often repeated phrase that sex sells, and it's a load of garbage. It's not sex that sells, it's porn. If it was merely sex or nudity that got people to buy books, half of the comics I've reviewed would be the highest-selling titles of all time. But huzzah! Frank Miller proves that he can't even draw a cheesecake without screwing it up royally. I ask any men or women curious to try. Stand in that pose with your stomach shoved out while simultaneously arching your back and see how long you want to stay in that position. We open to 5 hours ago. Enough with the timestamps, okay? Nobody opened this comic up and thought to themselves, oh man, I don't know what time it is compared to the rest of the story. I'm so confused. Time and space are meaningless in this comic, Frank. Wonder Woman is walking down a dark street holding a newspaper. The most noticeable thing about her outfit as it is in this is the addition of a nose guard. I admit I actually like this change, since it's a basic aesthetic difference that would make sense without somehow being controversial like pants somehow are. However, for some bizarre reason, she's wearing a trench coat too. Why? It's not because she's cold, since we can see it's already opened up, and frankly I would think she'd want to put on warmer clothes under the coat. Not to mention, she's super strong already, so I imagine that comes with endurance to the elements. It can't be to conceal her identity, because the outfit is so poorly covered underneath it. Plus, she's wearing the friggin' tiara thing right there on her face. Oh man, there's Wonder Woman right there! Oh wait, she's wearing a trench coat. Never mind, it isn't her. This page, this dumbass page, there's so much stupid here. There's Wonder Woman, who I'm sure is supposed to look pissed off, but instead just looks like she's pouting. There's the overwritten, irritating, and schizophrenic narration. Oh, I'll get to that in a second. There's a random drunken hobo asking Wonder Woman to marry him, and there's a random businessman just casually walking down the streets. Where the hell is he going? Judging by the light in the background, it's either sunrise or sunset. Either way, seems like an odd time for him to just be walking through some back alley. And then there's the dialogue. That wonderful, wonderful Frank Miller dialogue. Out of my way, sperm bank. Out of my way, internet meme. Metropolis, the city of dreams. Men's dreams. And, you know, the few 100,000 women who probably live in it too. It stinks of men, of doorways abandoned, obsolete phone booths used as urinals. That would have made things awkward for Bill and Ted. It leaves a bad taste, this world of men. Yeah, grape jelly and mustard. Weird. Men, they can't do anything right. Nonsense! We invented peanut butter, didn't we? So as Wonder Woman, okay, she's not acting like Wonder Woman either, so I've got a new name for her. This is Bonkers Betty, crazy escaped mental patient who found a Wonder Woman costume at a store and took it. So as Bonkers Betty smashes through a chained-up door, she continues her narration. The words on the door speak a lie. Men always lie. About everything. You look pretty today. Liar! I look hideous! Men always make a mess out of everything, says the woman smashing through private property. Actually, now that I think about it, I'm sure that's actually supposed to be deliberate. This is a feminist in Frank's eyes. You know, a straw man. Man-hating, hypocritical, and given the fact that until the 2011 reboot, Paradise Island always had a kind of nod and wink lesbianism going on, he probably sees her as a lesbian who just needs the right man to show her the error of her ways. I admit this is mere speculation on my part, but frankly, with what we've seen of Frank's writing before, does anyone really think that isn't a possibility? Oh, and speaking of Frank's tropes, Bonkers Betty discards her robe, leading to a shot of her walking down a stairwell from above so we can peek down her cleavage while her eyes are closed, as if we were seeing a Victoria's Secret commercial. Also, she wears horribly uncomfortable high heels like the freaking hugest ever. Lovely. And now she's talking about Batman. At least they insisted on meeting in Metropolis. As bad as this is, it's not that cesspool they call Gotham City. Gotham City, with its awful Batman. By all accounts, he's the worst of the lot. He's an outrage. Even by the standards of men, he's an outrage. In fact, you could call him outrageous. Truly, truly outrageous. Okay, Batman and Gem crossover. Make it happen, people. She walks into a room where Superman, Green Lantern, and Plastic Man are all located and arguing about Crazy Steve. Actually, here's my question. Why Plastic Man? I get that for some stupid reason Frank wants to do his version of the Justice League, probably so he can keep going on and on about how awesome Batman is compared to everybody else, but this I don't get. Wonder Woman, Superman, and Green Lantern make sense, but Plastic Man? I like Plastic Man just fine, I've got no complaints about the guy, but why him and not the Flash or Aquaman or something? Plastic Man, shape-changing nutcase. Oh, I get it now, because we needed more crazy people. I told you, Diana. I told you all. From the first moment I heard of that maniac, I knew his methods would make us all look like monsters. Says the dude who's casually twisting metal because of his rage issues. Still, at least he's saying other things besides damn. And now he's kidnapped a little boy. He'll be the excuse they've been looking for to destroy us. Yes, because when the little boy has been kidnapped by the psychotic murderer, it's your reputation as a superhero that you should be worrying about, you dick. Green Lantern tries to act rationally since they don't know for certain that Crazy Steve kidnapped anybody. Although I'm confused about the green hand symbols he's creating with his ring for absolutely no reason. Is he miming something? Okay, 4 words, sounds like hitchhiking? Shut up! You call yourselves men? So, wait, you were the one who was going on and on about how men suck and are weak and blah blah blah, yet you have an expectation of men to be strong and correct or something?
Great continuity!
Wonder Woman continues to berate the others for wanting to be so nice about it, stating that they're kowtowing to ants and dropping to their knees before earthbound, ephemeral humans. Obviously, it's Miller's method of trying to pave the way for the Dark Knight Strikes Again by putting herself and the others on the level of gods. Of course, anyone who actually gave a damn about Wonder Woman would know that she doesn't see herself above ordinary people, and God, I hate this comic! Why are we even wasting our time with the Justice League? I know this is a repeated thing with me, but isn't this book about Batman and Robin? Why should we care about the Justice League's reaction to him? All-Star Superman was ultimately about Superman, and while I think we got a cameo out of another hero or two, it was focused tightly on Superman's mythos. Did Miller just get bored with Batman and wanted to play with the other characters? Settle down, Diana. You're new to this world. You don't know the rules. We don't talk about Fight Club in Patriarch's world, Diana. Superman keeps playing it cool, trying to make it seem like she needs to calm down when it's obvious he wants to play burn the front page of the newspaper with her. Wonder Woman responds, "You want cooler, farm boy? I'll give you cooler. I'll give you cold. Cold and simple. We hunt down this Batman like a rabid dog. We kill him. We chop off his head and plant it on a stake and present it to your authorities as their first gift from the Justice League."
Okay, I was kind of with you until that last bit.
And Miller once again reverts to the style he used in Dark Knight Strikes Again, where he tries to wax poetic with Superman getting pissy and punching a metal column. It starts with a bellow worthy of Zeus, then a wind that Boreas might envy. I'm sorry, what was that about boring me? She's a fragile twig, a blade of grass, tossed aside in the wake of an angry god. Wonder Woman should never, ever be described as a fragile twig. Up yours, Miller. Damn you, Diana! Damn you and your Amazon arrogance! Damn it all to hell, you damn dirty apes! You blew it up! If you commit murder on my land, you'll pay for it with your own precious Amazon blood! So wait, if she kills someone on his land, from California to the New York Island, he'll kill her back? Way to really take the moral high ground there, Soups. Bonkers Betty basically says, screw you guys, I'm going home. Well, I take that back. That would actually be better written than Frank Miller's Torgo-esque repetition of, you bastard, I hate your guts, you make me sick, This comic blows. Oh, and then the two start making out. Yeah. This is that Frank Miller can only write female characters if they're prostitutes thing. Now, bear with me here. I'm not calling Wonder Woman a prostitute. I'm just making the association here that's in Miller's mind. Wonder Woman, in his head, is just some angry feminazi who needs sex with an alpha male to calm her down. She's not actually strong in her convictions, since all it takes is a big, strong man to get her to not go off and try to murder Batman. The logic following it being that she comes from an island of lesbians, and gay people don't have relationships, they just have sex. And following that, wanting to have sex in such a manner means she's wicked and immoral and loose, thus prostitute. The only reason characters like Carrie Kelly and, in the next issue, Barbara Gordon don't get tied with that is because even Frank Miller isn't so squicky as to do that to teenagers. He sees them instead as young girls or daughter figures that need to be protected. Have I mentioned that Frank Miller is a dumbass? I have? Don't care. Frank Miller's a dumbass! Then Zeus stabs the world of man with thunderbolts, and somewhere Poseidon roars with laughter.
Curse you, merciful Poseidon!
The thunderbolts, they stab them both. What the hell does that even mean? You boys go and give it your best shot. After that, it's up to me, and all your rules can go straight to hell, and so can you. I hate you all.
Man, I'm sorry these two didn't end up together.
Well, they did.
Oh, well, then I'm sorry about that.
The Justice League of America. For now, they are creatures of accident and destiny, each seeking their way. They could really use a GPS. To truth. To justice. To sweet, sweet booze. But enough of that totally unnecessary stuff. Now it's back to Crazy Steve. How do we know it's him? Well, he's laughing in satanic glee, and his narration caption is, I love being the goddamn Batman. Yeah, I think Frank was aware of the meme status that goddamn Batman had reached, and so he just injected it into the rest of the issues as often as he could, not realizing that when you overuse a meme, people kinda get sick of it. More of Jim Lee's artwork is wasted. 2 panels of Steve's psychotic cackling, then a 2-page spread of him running across a rooftop. Like in Batman Noel, it features some very lovely architectural artwork that I'm sure took Jim Lee some time to draw, and it's unfortunate that it's blocked off by dumbass writing. Also, I've noticed that the sky is red. I'd like to think that Crisis on Infinite Earths is happening in whatever universe this takes place in, and it's all gonna be swept away in antimatter soon. It's a pity that it's taking its sweet-ass time. Steve continues his crappy narration about how he hasn't slept in days, and yet is still so excited and energized. I'm glad somebody's happy. I should be exhausted! I haven't slept in days! But I can't get tired, no matter how hard I try. Not on a night like this. Not with my pulse pounding my ears and dear Gotham calling to me like a sultry siren. Okay, 1, you haven't slept in days? You went out to the circus as Bruce Wayne without ever having slept? 2, it doesn't matter how much natural adrenaline he's got pumping into him, without any kind of rest, it's gonna start hurting, both physically and mentally. Now we know why he's insane. Without sleep, anyone will go nuts. 3, a sultry siren? For the love of crap, in an earlier issue, you were the one who compared her to Edgar Allan Poe's Lenore. A woman screams. What the hell?
Flag on the moon. How did it get there?
I give with the laugh that always works.
I love how this comic keeps offering us explanations for this nonsense. Frank doesn't realize he's writing Batman, he thinks he's writing the Creeper. Creeper's the one who laughs insanely to scare criminals while being totally friggin' nuts. Oh, and speaking of wasted space, splash page of Batman against the huge-ass moon! Why the hell was it taking so long to get this book out when 6 of the 12 pages we've had so far are splash pages, 2-page spreads, or whatever the hell those 2 panels featuring his head are? Crazy Steve leaps down towards a group of thugs assaulting a woman with huge knives in their hands. I'm talking Crocodile Dundee, this is a knife, size knives. Stevie Boy beats the snot out of the would-be rapists. Well, I presume they're rapists. Given how bizarre those knives are, maybe they're just overly enthusiastic knife salesmen. Even giving a compound fracture to one guy. I'd say this was further proof of his psychotic behavior, but in the last few issues, he murdered policemen. This is pretty tame by his standards. Of course, then Crazy Steve starts beating one guy who keeps asking, "What?" in confusion, as if this was Pulp Fiction. Steve, you are not Samuel L. Jackson, and yes, they do speak English in what?
What? You're asking me what?
What?
What? This.
No. What's on second, you idiot? Third base! The woman who is being attacked watches and then gets a maniacal grin on her face. Oh my god, the madness is spreading! The woman, wearing what I think are supposed to be platform heels and look like much more sensible shoes than the superheroine was wearing, walks over to one of her injured attackers who asks for help. The woman just kicks him in the groin and says, "I've got Batman watching after me." Well, thank God we had this scene, otherwise, the comic would be 1 page shorter.
Go home now. Catch a cab on Novik. It's well lit. Call your shrink if you've got one.
Well, hold on a second there, Rainbow. This just off the newswire. You're not licensed to comment on how people deal with their emotions.
Although, actually, given how she was following Steve's example with her psychotic look, maybe a psychiatrist wouldn't be a bad idea. Then again, Steve's not exactly in any position to evaluate who needs psychological help. Thank you. I love you.
Oh, tainted love.
Tainted love.
To which our intrepid hero thinks in his narration boxes,
"Nobody loves anybody, my darling. We just survive."
Thanks, Marv. That was real deep. As deep as the hole in your brain. Anyway, after some more repetitive narration, we cut back to Wayne Manor and our old pal Alfred Pennyworth and... oh my lord. He's punching a punching bag while wearing shorts and he appears quite muscular. Okay, I can believe that he'd want to stay in good shape, but give me a break here. The guy's in his 60s at least, and I think he'd be doing other exercises besides a punching bag. And furthermore, isn't he a butler? Doesn't he have things to clean or, say, a frightened 12-year-old in the basement of his psychotic employer to take care of? Oh boy, the narration boxes don't make this scene any better, folks. It just makes it much, much creepier. How many a day, how many hundreds, thousands a time, day or night, did my black-eyed angel come home from his frolics in the wood, blood streaming his smiling, fearless face? His black-eyed angel? You have a very strange theology, Alfred. He was always an adventurer, Bruce was. Always jumping and running and giving himself a proper banging. He was banging himself? I guess Batman does train to be the best at everything. And now my demon, my black-eyed, brilliant, willful angel, has grown to manhood. Don't you ever say manhood again, you maniac! I pray this child will survive this. Manhood, banging, describing Bruce in romantic terms, and then bringing up the kid? I think I'm gonna throw up all over myself. We cut over to Dick Grayson, age 12, examining a weapons rack in the Batcave. Wait, are those guns? Guns in the Batcave? After After Alfred just had half a page of unnecessary narration where he talked about the death of the Waynes that I skipped over because it was just boring. Frank, do you even know who Batman is? For crying out loud, even you wrote about his refusal to have guns back in The Dark Knight Strikes Again! Next thing you know, the Batcave is gonna have some massive, ridiculous chain gun and oh god damn it! Batman works out of a really big cave. It's full of stuff. Crazy Steve sure knows how to pick the sharp ones for his sidekicks, doesn't he? It's like a museum would be if a museum could breathe. 1. No, it isn't. 2. No, it isn't. And all the stuff is clean and sharpened and polished and ready to use. So what does Dick immediately do? He reaches for the sharp bladed edge of an axe. This place is just begging for someone to trip, fall, and get their head gouged on an exposed weapon. And so the issue that people had waited a whole year for ends on Dick Grayson, age 12, picking up a huge freaking battle axe and saying, "Cool." Congratulations, Frank, on 22 more pages devoted to wasting everybody's time. This comic sucks. Do I even have to explain why? As I just stated, this was when the delay problems with All-Star Batman and Robin, aka All-Star, this is really the entire DC universe, but we're putting Batman's name on it to make a quick buck, began to really become an issue. A whole year's wait for this comic that essentially amounted to Batman's still crazy, Dick Grayson's going to injure himself, and the Justice League are assholes. Jim Lee's artwork continues to be good, but isn't worth the cover price. For added unpleasantness, there seems to be some kind of red filtering going on, since every page and panel is in red, as if the blood on the cover was somehow seeping into the rest of the book, or we were trying to read it through a virtual boy. And of course, the writing is... yeah. Even if it's not officially spoken, I think it's pretty much guaranteed that the promised continuation of this series is never going to come. Though we still have several more issues to go for what was printed. However, I'm really not in the mood anymore. Out of my way, poorly written comic! Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Say... it's Miller time! Welcome to Miller Time, the segment where Frank Miller is king, as well as the jester. And it's time once again to dive into All-Star Batman and Robin. I don't want to have it be another year-long delay between reviews of issues, so let's continue, shall we? Last time, we were introduced to the Justice League of Crazy Steve's universe, and we learned that everybody else is crazy or stupid too. We got to meet Bonkers Betty, Frank Miller's idea of Wonder Woman, who has barely controlled rage issues and apparent hatred of all men unless they claim her as sexual property, which she is perfectly okay with. And oh, how I cannot wait for somebody to try to argue that this is somehow the same thing as her early appearances, as if the last 70 years haven't happened. While Alfred talked in quite a sexually suggestive tone about his love for Bruce, Crazy Steve took some time out of talking about his love for himself to beat some muggers / potential rapists half to death. And then Dick Grayson, age 12, picked up a large, sharp battle axe. And that's all that happened. I'd say the pacing on this series was slow, but that's kind of redundant, considering that by this point, when the comic was first published, it had been a full 2 years and only 6 issues had been printed. And before anyone criticizes me about how long it takes for me to get my comics published, I'd like to point out that I'm not a professional comic company. And in their defense, they did finally get the book on a bi-monthly publishing schedule by that point, and issues 6, 7, and 8 were released 2 months apart from each other. And then its final 2 issues screwed the pooch and were 4 months apart from each other. But enough about those. Let's dig into All-Star Batman and Robin number 6 and see how much more nothing can happen. reading from a trade, so no looking at the cover. Not that there's anything really to say about it. Gotta love how, despite the title being All-Star Batman and Robin, of the 3 characters on the cover, only one of them is in the title. If it was a fight scene, sure, I'd understand that, but it's just Batman, Black Canary, and Batgirl posing. Huzzah! It's well drawn, but that's par for the course for Jim Lee. Oh yeah, and speaking of Batgirl, she's in this comic too. Because when we've focused so little on the main characters, what we need is yet another character in this. We'll talk some more about her costume when we actually get to it in the book. We open with a splash page of Crazy Steve with gritty teeth and lots of narration boxes.
Sometimes I wonder why I never sleep anymore, but not tonight!
I don't either. Considering the skewed timescale of the series, how would you know how long you've been awake for anyway? Maybe that's the real explanation. This is all some kind of fever dream, as Batman has been awake for too long and he's hallucinating. That's it. All-Star Batman and Robin is Batman going crazy in the catacombs of the Court of Owls. By the by, want a good Batman comic recommendation? Check out Court of Owls. Anyway, back to Court of Ow, my head hurts.
It's been the kind of night that dreams are made of. I dreamed a dream of kidnapped kids. When Bruce was high and breasts were bloody.
So I think I figured out how they were able to get the comic on schedule for so long. Almost half of this comic is made up of either splash pages or 2-page spreads. Sequential art at its finest, my friends. If you're wondering what else Steve is narrating about, I'll save you some time. Blah blah blah, delicious ultra-violence. Steve is pissed off because Black Canary has finally come roaring in on her motorcycle. I would remind you that when she was in issue 3, that was apparently 6 months ago. So apparently she's been riding on this motorcycle for 6 months in the exact same clothes she was at the time. Or perhaps she hit a wormhole and is only now just emerging.
Space is warped and time is bendable.
Crazy Steve is unimpressed.
Just what I need! Some damn amateur showing up out of nowhere!
Yeah, amateur superheroing is just wrong. You need to leave it to the professionals, like you, the guy who supposedly hasn't slept in days and left a 12-year-old unattended in a room full of sharp and dangerous objects. Though I'm sure there isn't a problem there. Oh, wait!
She'll get herself killed here! She'll get herself killed!
Whoa now, narration. You didn't repeat "here" at the end of that second sentence. You're losing your touch for repetitive phrases.
Where the hell are all these damn wannabes coming from?
Hell if I know, Frank. You're the one who keeps putting them in here. You know you've got it bad when your own characters are questioning your stupid decisions as a writer. Also, he's suddenly underneath a dock and looking up. Little known fact about the second Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle film, at the end, the Shredder was supposed to turn into Batman, not the Super Shredder. We cut to 3 hours ago, which, let's see, 15 hours ago there was a milk carton with Dick Grayson, age 12's picture. 5 hours ago was the Justice Losers meeting, and it probably took some time to drive from the woods to the Batcave. 6 months ago was Black Canary, who's only showing up now, which would make present time Thursday. Okay, glad we worked that out. The human spirit is indomitable.
Homo sapiens, they're indomitable.
So we see Barbara Gordon running up the stairs of her home and showing the same psychotic grin as the woman who was rescued in the last issue. Was that supposed to be Barbara and she was just drawn incorrectly? Barbara Gordon, age 15, listening to her dad. Sentence fragments, old as writing itself. Being tedious. Commissioner Gordon is, of course, in the comic too. His defining characteristic is that he is talky. Like, really talky. There is a crap ton of dialogue that he is spewing out, mostly about his kids, but he'll start talking about Crazy Steve in a minute. Human nature is indomitable. Thought it was human spirit that was indomitable. Could you at least be consistent with your nonsense? But life is complex. I can't wait for Frank Miller's philosophy book to come out. Life and its goddamn complexities.
She's listening to her dad, who's just happening to be talking on the phone to the woman of his dreams, while his wife sits in the next room texting somebody.
And in the pages of Life and Its Goddamn Complexities, you'll learn how to laugh while fighting crime, as well as how to feel unfulfilled in your marriage. By the by, the person Gordon is on the phone with is a character named Sarah Essen, who he was having an affair with in Batman Year One, which this is apparently in continuity with. Yeah, of course it is. Considering she knew he was married, I'm inclined to believe this is just another example of Frank Miller's all women are whores style of writing. I admit I could be exaggerating a bit in this analysis, since I don't believe we ever see her in Ass Bar, and she was a minor character in Year One, which was also a good story before Frankie went nuts. Then again, there was also the comic that made Catwoman's backstory that she was a prostitute inspired by Batman, which, come to think of it, is similar to Black Canary, who was basically a Hooters waitress inspired by Batman, in this story anyway. Still, noticing a pattern here, the women in Frank Miller stories talk a lot about sex, have sex and sexualization as the focus of their backstory or character, or are inspired by Batman, which Barbara Gordon will be falling into because she's only 15 in the story, and, as I've said before, Frank Miller is not so horrible a person as to fetishize an underage girl. But that's as much as I'll give him. Anyway, Gordon's talking with Sarah Essen on the phone, and it's time once again for Frank Miller doesn't get how memes work, since he now says goddamn Batman 3 times over the course of their conversation. You can't keep a meme alive by just repeating it over and over. You have to do something different with it, or have it infrequent enough that nobody minds the reference. Anywho, Gordon says he doesn't mind that Batman beats the snot out of the crooked cops. Yeah, as previous issues have indicated, it's pretty clear he's done more than just beat them up. But please, keep telling yourself that Crazy Steve hasn't murdered anyone today. No, it's not that. What really bugs me about the goddamn Batman is what he's turned into. What he's become. He has become Death, destroyer of Batmen. Abandon all hope, ye who read this. No, his problem is that he's become an urban legend. Sorry, goddamn urban legend. Yes, seriously, we get it, Frank. And he's inspiring copycat vigilantes, which is our segue into Barbara putting on her Batgirl costume. And just looking at the posters in her room, I see what appears to be an Adam West Batman poster, making me wonder who the hell printed that, and if Adam West was Batman at some point in this universe. Anyway, yeah, she leaps out her window, and I actually do like this Batgirl outfit for the most part. Jim Lee did a great job capturing Frank Miller's art style in this page while keeping it his own, if that makes any sense. The Bat logo is similar to the one that Miller has often used in his work, and the overall anatomy is kinda short and stocky, like Miller tends to draw on his characters. The dynamics of the pose are all Miller too. Less impressive is just a general design choice, a keychain of superhero logos on her belt, and rather dangly earrings. I get that she's being inspired by superheroes, but if she's smart enough to put this outfit together, complete with customized bat logos for her belt, boots, and on the grappling hook, she should be smart enough not to have something that could be grabbed by a villain and violently ripped off of her ear. We cut to 5 hours ago. So 5 hours ago from 3 hours ago? What time is it? Why does this need to be 5 or even 8 hours ago? Why did Barbara Gordon putting on the Batgirl costume need to be 3 hours ago? Why can't these events just be taking place at the same goddamn time? They're all taking place at night anyway, with heavy rainfall occurring. Is the letterer just trolling the audience by putting in those timestamps? It doesn't make any goddamn sense. And oh dear Lord, now I'm doing the goddamn thing too. Yeah, the absolutely pivotal scene that needed to be 5 hours ago is that a teenage Jimmy Olsen, a Superman character, is delivering flowers and a laptop for Vicky Vale. He's a 16-year-old cub reporter for the Gotham Gazette. Even though we've established Clark Kent in this story, and that Clark is working for the Daily Planet. What the hell is this doing here? Is it a cameo? Did Frank Miller just really want to bring Jimmy Olsen into this story? Why? Or perhaps it was just to remind us that Vicky Vale in this universe is hot and Jimmy wants to bang her. And given the description that Miller wrote about Vicky Vale in the first story that was consciously objectifying her, I think Frank Miller wants to bang her too. You know, Frank, if you're so sexually frustrated that you need to project your masturbatory fantasies onto paper, perhaps you should just go see a prostitute. Why not? You write about them often enough. Anyway, he also bought flowers for her because she's like a totally hot babe and all, but Bruce Wayne left her flowers all over her hospital room, which I'm sure the hospital would totally allow like this. Anyway, he brought her info on the Flying Graysons and Batman. Thank you, Mr. Olsen. My column just got a reason to exist. Your column is about comparing superhero penis sizes. It doesn't have a reason to exist. He should tell her to just call him Jimmy. Everybody else does, but he really gets off on the breathy way she says Mr. Olsen. If I don't want to read your masturbatory fantasies, Frank, what the hell makes you think I want to read about Jimmy Olsen's? I wonder if Supergirl untied the ropes for him in this universe. Also, little known fact, hospital gowns are apparently about as long as a miniskirt. Also, if you survive a car collision and your heart stops for a bit and you need a doctor literally flown in from France by Superman to perform surgery, you're perfectly able to stand up on your own power and leave. Ma'am, excuse me, but you're due to stay here for 3 more days! You're a journalist, Mr. Olsen. You've got to learn to take chances. Yeah, like the chance your suture will open up and you'll bleed all over yourself. Why do you need to do this right now exactly? Which is actually 5 or 8 hours ago. You're an idiot! He gets her clothes for her. He doesn't watch as she slithers out of her hospital gown. He doesn't watch as she gets dressed. Really, he doesn't. I know, right? I'm just as surprised as you are that we're not watching it. Then again, we did have another scene where she's talking while the camera focuses on her ass, so there's that. Just to recap, by the way, in this comic called All-Star Batman and Robin, Batman has been in all of 2 pages out of 14. And Robin is in none of them. Seriously, Dick Grayson, age 12, is not appearing in this story, even though the ending of the last issue was setting up him with the axe. Of course. Meanwhile, back on the docks... How can we have a meanwhile when it's supposed to be 5 hours ago? Is time broken? Should I be hoping Booster Gold is gonna show up and try to make sense of this nightmare? Ugh. Black Canary is hustling some assholes on the dock and talking about how she used to work at a bar and overheard a guy bragging about being a fence. Must not have been a very good one if he just loudly announces how he sells stolen goods. And that there was a particular stretch along the docks where you could buy anything. Who the hell is this broad? She sounds like a goddamn leprechaun. I have never heard a foreign accent in my entire life and thus I am confused. She basically tells them to hand over all their money, but because she speaks with an Irish accent, remember, this is Irish Ninja Black Canary with kung fu kicking action, the accent is apparently far too much for their tiny brains to handle. What the hell is she talking about? She makes me feel like I've got bees in my head. Bees, my god. See, Frank? That is how you do a meme. I don't use that one very often, because, shockingly enough, there aren't actually a lot of times when bees show up in comics. I know, right? She's not talking for much longer. It's been months since I gut shot a chick. Congratulations? When the dude calls her Love Chunks, and really, who the hell talks like that? She promptly slams a Sansetsukan, aka a 3-sectioned nunchuck, into the dude's face.
All that training, all those years.
What training? She was working in a friggin' Hooters, and the narration from the last issue suggested that she just left the Irish countryside, not that she was actually trained in anything. If she was so well trained and everything, like her actual comic counterpart was, what the hell was she doing at that bar to begin with? She beats up the guys and she takes some money, even seeming to kiss it for some bizarre reason. However, she is then confronted by 3 guys with guns. We then cut to 5 minutes ago. Over to Crazy Steve, who's narrating to himself that the killer of Dick Grayson, age 12's parents, is walking free.
A guy like Jocko Boy Vanzetti always makes me want to get some crippling done.
I would spend time criticizing the extreme methods employed by Crazy Steve, but I'm just wondering, what the hell did this guy do to earn the nickname Jocko Boy?
With 2 wads of steel-jacketed lead, he turned a wide-eyed 12-year-old into an orphan.
With 132 pages of ink-jacketed paper, Frank Miller has turned a book about all-star creators doing a fresh take on popular characters into what if the DC universe was really, 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 really stupid?
And here he comes, escorted to freedom by one of Gotham's finest.
6 issues in, and we still don't know why the hell 2 friggin' trapeze artists needed to die to make the police happy. In fact, this is the first time since the first issue where they follow up on that crap. We see that Jocko is still suffering from the snake poison Steve gave him back in the first issue, as he's hallucinating, seeing maggots crawl out of his driver's face and a cobra slithering around his head.
I fed Jocko Boy some nasty snake poison last we met. Lord only knows what he's seeing.
Well, if it's anything like Mr. T's drug hallucinations from last week, we can probably guess.
We're in a plane! Don't panic! A plane! Take it easy! No plane! Relax!
And so Crazy Steve flies down and kicks through the glass of the cop car right into the policeman's face. Yeah, at that speed and the amount of force necessary to go through the windshield like that, cop's dead. Snapped neck, I'd say. Yep, that's right, Gordon. He hasn't killed any of them. Also, Steve has some more of his quips at the ready.
Ha! Eat glass, lawman!
Actually, none of the glass seems to be hitting his face. It's only your boot. As such, the appropriate joke to make here is boot to the head. What? If this was Batman, he would have trained with the best martial artists in the world, including the masters of Taekwondo Leap. Steve pulls Jocko out of the car, who only groans with blag. But I guess that's unsatisfactory for Steve.
Blag? What's with blag?
Well, it's kind of like blarg, but not as impressive. And after all that trouble, he just tosses him aside when he hears gunshots and figures that Black Canary screwed up Royal.
First I get myself a kid's sidekick, and now this.
You kidnapped him, you asshole! And when we see Black Canary wrapping her weapon around a dude's neck and probably killing him, he doesn't bat an eye at this. Black Canary manages to avoid getting hit and ducks behind some wooden boxes, the perfect cover against automatic weapons. Damn your eyes!
The rest of you is not very impressive.
And so our comic ends with Crazy Steve rescuing her while Canary exclaims, "It's the goddamn Batman! This goddamn comic goddamn sucks! Why does this comic exist? What am I even doing anymore? Why was Frank Miller allowed to keep writing this series for so damn long? You know, next week is the 250th episode, so I need something a little more grounded in reality and less asinine than this. Next week, Tandy Computer Whiz Kids. Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Say! It's Miller time! Welcome once again to Miller Time, where even if the artwork is good, chances are the writing is not. Oh, Frank Miller, you have been busy! And by that I mean not really. The most pertinent news related to you recently was an alternate cover to Detective Comics number 27 that made every single person who saw it slap their own forehead. Said cover is awful, but the decision to use it as a cover is even more baffling. The comic actually came out a couple weeks ago, and I think like 1 or 2 stories have Catwoman in them, but she's not that important a player. You'd think that this was just standard Miller idiocy at play to draw women with questionable anatomy. Where is that tail attached to exactly? But I've heard it rumored that he didn't even draw the damn thing for Detective Comics number 27, but as stock artwork for Ass Bar. Plenty of artwork developed for a series never actually sees the light of day. Mostly concept sketches, diagrams for common locations, stuff that most professionals would do to keep things feeling consistent, even though a lot of the comics we see here tend to forget to do that. I'll say this to the fact that it might be stock artwork. One of the good things that DC is doing right now is keeping themselves from actually making contact with Frank Miller. I mean, sure, they tried to do the Orson Scott Card Superman story, and he's openly and proudly homophobic, but at least he still has fans. Frank Miller, though? I don't know. Frank Miller's fans seem to have quietly retreated. No one's insulted me for critiquing Miller in years. They'd better get started again soon, though, lest I start believing that I will someday be as popular as the Bee Gees. Previously on All-Star Batman and Robin. Crazy Steve, America's favorite hobo, kidnapped Dick Grayson, age 12, to become his ward and eat rats in a dank cave. Vicky Vale was injured and then wasn't thanks to Superman, who was made fun of by Crazy Steve even though Superman could just super speed into his damn cave and pulverize his face into a wall before the thought even crossed Steve's mind to go for kryptonite. The Justice League of this universe are made up of impotent, annoying jerks who just bicker with each other in an abandoned brewery or something, which would include the presence of their version of Wonder Woman, who I have dubbed Bonkers Betty. Black Canary took 6 months to wander around before finally making it to Gotham. Everybody is repeating the goddamn Batman meme, and said meme has lost all the charm it once had. And most importantly, we have learned that time is merely an illusion, and for the first time, I'm doing an issue of this series without having previously done a text review of it. So let's dig into All-Star Batman and Robin number 7 and see what new spore of madness awaits us.
Welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. Brodsky, you're not the smartest. Life out, you're not an artist. Anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he's a man punch, wears a birdie hat. Linkara, he has a magic gun. Where'd he purchase that? Linkara, coins, robots, Amazons and trucks. Linkara, this comic sucks. Linkara.
Reading from the trade, so no sense looking at the cover, especially since it's just Batman and Black Canary fighting thugs like at the end of the last issue. Canary's leg looks more like she's doing splits in the air rather than fighting. There's a Frank Miller variant that depicts some kind of gorilla in a shroud charging through what I presume are bullets, but I don't know what that has to do with, oh, it's supposed to be Batman. Silly me. We open with Crazy Steve doing something. I'm sure you could say he's kicking someone in the face, but considering how high in the air he is, it'd be more likely that he's doing the can-can. Hell, it doesn't even look comfortable since his arms are in the middle of grabbing his cape, he's leaning in while doing the kick, and he's landing on some boxes. If you're gonna fly down at someone, you're not kicking, you're using your full body weight for the collision. Or perhaps Crazy Steve has finally embraced my nickname for him and just decided to start dancing in the middle of a fight.
Striking terror. Best part of the job. The muscle pulls, on the other hand, are not as fun. Once you scare the crap out of them, they scramble away like cockroaches. Gotham City's full of cockroaches. Seriously, the exterminator business is the only booming industry in this town.
And it seems that Steve has decided to start really digging out the psychotic rambling and insults for these criminals.
You don't know from Screwed, you losers!
Ah yes, the dark, menacing figure that is the Batman, calling criminals losers and saying they're screwed. Might as well say, you suck, you poop faces! And in the battle, crates are getting destroyed and emptying their contents everywhere. Said contents are bottles of bleach?
Will you look at that? Bottles of bleach! These thieves will sell anything!
Ah, black market Walmart distributors.
And here I am with all this thermite! It'd be a damn shame to let it go to waste! All this thermite really could be whiter! They're shooting scared! They're shooting stupid! Killing their own! Life is good!
Hey! Further proof that this isn't Batman, just a crazy guy who got a hold of his outfit. Batman cares about all life. It's why he hasn't snapped the Joker's neck like so many say he should. Crazy Steve takes a thermite charge and shoves it into a bleach bottle.
Let me take you to school, suckers!
Suckers? You are not Mr. T!
Come on, sucker, I ain't got time for your crazy rap.
In chemistry!
And apparently this combination caused the bleach bottle to explode, setting a lot of the criminals' bodies on fire. Yeah, ignoring the homicidal part for a second, I don't know how accurate this is scientifically. I didn't want to delve too deeply into Google searches on the topic, since I'd rather not raise any flags for doing searches on homemade explosives. I'm sure I'm going to get a gajillion responses in the comments on this explaining this in depth, but from what I could find, bleach can be used to make thermite. Not that you mix thermite with bleach for an explosive. So yeah, Steve, you're not really taking us to school. And even if you were, congratulations! You're a murderous psychopath who is setting people on fire. You know, I got into a brief argument in the comments with someone who said I just don't get this story, that it's deliberately designed as a deconstruction of Batman as a psychotic figure, damaged and deranged, and that it's just a good idea that's been poorly executed. Which, okay, but one, it's still poorly executed. Two, even if that is true, it wasn't what the book was supposed to be about. And three, no one wants to read that story. Well, to be accurate, no one wants to read that story here. Deconstructionist superhero tales are a dime a dozen, and they don't really need to have the actual superheroes for them. There's a reason why people use analogs in those stories instead of the real thing. It's an often quoted remark about superheroes that they are an adolescent power fantasy. A male one in particular, but let's leave that out for the moment. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with the catharsis of seeing violent, terrible people get their comeuppance via gloved fist to the face. There is something to be said about the mythology of a person putting on a costume designed to evoke emotions in people and trying to right the wrongs of the world. There's something in believing in symbols and figures larger than ourselves and drawing inspiration from that in our everyday lives. And then there's something to be said about taking that power fantasy, one that's also beloved by children, is on toys and in cartoons, and then making him a crazy psychopath who forces a little kid, one who just lost his parents as he did, to eat cave rat. Just saying, there's a time and place.
You don't know from hurt either, you wads!
You don't know from insults, you knob. Seriously, what the hell is with the insults he's throwing? Wads? Suckers? Losers? For someone who's supposedly trained to be the smartest and best crime fighter, he's really not exactly being all that creative with his insults.
This is hurt!
And the guy he's hitting, he actually kinda looks like John Hurt to me. So that just makes this doubly amusing. And introducing John Hurt as the war guy elbowed in the face.
So's this, sweetheart! And so's this, boy of mine! And so's this, lover!
What?
And so's this, cupcake!
I don't think you know what those words mean!
And so's this, Schnooky Wookums!
And nearby, Black Canary is watching and narrating to herself. He doesn't stop. He doesn't spare a one of them. Not a one. Before I can even catch my breath, they're a bunch of bleeding, burning heaps they are. And God help me, here I am, thunderstruck in love with the man. The surefire way to a woman's heart. Murderous violence. The goddamn Batman. Okay, Frank, this issue came out 2 years after the goddamn Batman became a thing. And I know this entire series is a bad joke, but it stopped being funny a while ago. Give it up!
Sleep tight, princess, and don't you go messing again with any Gotham City girls!
Yeah, don't go messing with those girls. Those 25-year-old girls. Has anybody ever told you, my good man, that you are totally hot?
Not for the last few days, no.
Considering he hasn't slept or showered in a few days, and has been really active, probably hasn't changed the bat suit, I'd say he's about as attractive as a sweat stain on tight pants. Consider yourself told! And she leaps into his arms and starts making out with him, because nothing gets someone in the mood more than dead criminals in the rain. I'm serious, they have to be dead. Some of them are still alive, no doubt, but Steve critically injured them and set them on fire and did nothing to put out said fires. Sure, it's raining, but this is a chemical fire, so it's probably not gonna help all that much. And considering how severe their injuries are, if they don't get immediate treatment, they're probably not gonna live for much longer.
Her tongue's a little bit sandy. She's a smoker. Cigars. Cuban.
Just a reminder, our cigar-chomping Black Canary is an Irish ninja. No doubt the cigars are what help her breathe when she's running around in a tight outfit doing complex martial arts moves. The smoke pushes her lungs out, giving her expanded lung capacity.
I haven't kissed a smoker in weeks. Not since Selena.
Weren't you the guy who was all pissed off at Black Canary in the last issue for being a damn amateur? I guess you don't quite care as much when she wants to have sex.
Sorry. It's been a while since a bat's been in the cave, if you know what I mean.
We keep our masks on. It's better that way.
And a loud lightning strike. This is one of the more infamous moments of the series, much like Goddamn Batman or Out of My Way Sperm Bank. The implication here is that Batman and Black Canary had sex in their costumes on a rainy pier. To be fair, though, that's not entirely clear. See, they still have the rest of their clothes on, and there's nothing in the previous panel to indicate they were stripping or anything. As such, aside for the keeping their masks on line, the only thing to really give a symbolic cue to them screwing is the lightning bolt. Which could actually mean that Batman just threw his batarang too early, if you get my meaning. That being said, with the continuous references to sex and Frank Miller's previously mentioned obsession with prostitutes, I'm starting to wonder if Frank is just really sexually repressed, like even more than Tony from the Johnny Turbo comics. Maybe the reason Frank's writing took such a downhill turn is because he hasn't gotten laid in forever and it's starting to mess with him. Or perhaps I'm just reaching, because this comic is stupid and repetitive and boring and I have no qualms about making fun of a racist, homophobic sack of crap like Frank Miller. Or if you don't believe he's any of those things, then I'm just insulting the guy who wrote a comic that featured Batman's premature ejaculation in his bat pants.
He's at home, washing his tights.
But back to the story, shall we?
Need a ride home? In this rain, you'll freeze yourself to death on that Harley.
What, you got a car? You're the goddamn Batman, and you need yourself a goddamn car? No, he's got a bat Segway. What the hell's the problem with him having a car?
Sure I do. I'm not the one who can fly, although that idiot doesn't even know he can fly.
Okay, 1, Superman and the Justice League are well established by this point in this continuity. Why doesn't Clark know he can fly? 2, if Superman doesn't know he can fly, how the hell do you know he can fly? Crazy Steve has no detective skills. Or did he just cripple somebody who knew that Superman can fly?
Batmobile, find me!
Very good, sir. Right away, sir. Batmobile? Huh, I guess chicks don't dig the car, dude.
Not one word! I've taken enough grief about calling my goddamn car the goddamn Batmobile! I'm the goddamn Batman, and I can call my goddamn car whatever the hell I want to call it! God damn it! This goddamn horse isn't goddamn dead enough! Must keep beating its goddamn corpse!
Whatever you say, man of mine, that's just a totally queer name for a car is all. No, please, I'd love to hear more about why Frank Miller is such an awesome writer, and this comic is truly the stuff of deconstructionist legend. Can someone tell me again why it took so many years for this thing to die? Batman picks up the body of Jocko Boy, you know, the guy who killed Dick Grayson's parents, who was, for some reason, in a cop car near the site of an illegal bleach-selling operation. As the Batmobile moves in closer to the two.
Let's get you home. It's almost dawn. Sometimes I hate the sun. Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, and I say, it's alright. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
I guess Black Canary is cooling on the whole Batman is the best guy ever thing, since now she's telling him that he could really benefit by having somebody talk to him and not be a crazy person. He tells her to shut up, and then immediately decides she shouldn't shut up with his narration captions.
Nuts to that! She's got a right to say whatever she wants. She's got a right to say whatever she wants.
Maybe it's not that a crazy hobo got a hold of Batman's suit, it was just Johnny 2 times.
She's got the right. Thomas Jefferson and all that.
Batman, a true blue American patriot.
And she's dead right to say I'm half crazy, but only half. The other half is doing just fine.
Yeah, we've really seen the half of you that isn't completely insane when you... Well, you offered Black Canary a ride home, so I guess that proves you're not completely cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And Dick Grayson, age 12's face in an extreme close-up and within a black void. The image of a head inside of a black void. Let's throw out some references, shall we?
I am Arthur Frayne, and I am Zardoz.
I am Holly, the ship's computer, with an IQ of 6,000.
I'm just a poor boy, nobody loves me.
He's just a poor boy from a poor family.
I've got no idea how long I've been here in this bat cave. I've got no idea how many hours, how many days and nights. I'm glad someone else is acknowledging the bizarre timescale of this series. And now the head in the black void, but considerably tinier. In any other comic, this would actually be kind of stylistically minimalistic and cool. In this comic, it's just another example of laziness considering how many splash pages and 2-page spreads we've had. Also, the black void and everything aren't exactly real. As the next page reveals, the cave is perfectly well lit. What actually happened is that Dick Grayson, age 12, took that battle axe from a few issues ago and killed a rat with it. He did not eat the rat, but he is throwing up that burger Alfred had supplied him with. Yeah, don't worry about it, Dick. I have the same reaction when eating Hardee's. We then see sound effects, now there's a phrase that can only be written about comic books, of tack, tack, tack. Now this confuses me because it's mighty similar to the sound Bonkers Betty's massive high heels were making on metal. Instead, it's the sound of Crazy Steve's boots on dirt. Oh, well, maybe I'm reading too much into it. After all, that sound effect was tank, while this is tack. There's just so much difference, and clearly I was not so confused that when I first saw that, I thought that Steve was now wearing high heels. So Steve has gotten back to the cave, carrying Jocko Boy with him over his shoulder.
Grayson, front and center! I've brought you the man who murdered your parents, and his fate is in your hands. Only you can prevent murderers. You can hear me, can't you, boy? It's time for you to decide. Are you an Avenger or a detective?
And that's when Dick Grayson walks out of the shadows with Nick Fury and replies, Avenger. Also, those are clearly the only two options. It's not like he could choose to not be a superhero, you sanctimonious prick, especially so soon after the death of his parents. And please stop pretending you're a detective, Crazy Steve. Encyclopedia Brown was a detective. Nate the Great was a detective. Hell, Obi-Wan Kenobi in Attack of the Clones was more of a detective than you. And so Dick steps forward, wielding the huge battle axe and suddenly not talking like any child his age would be in this situation. Yes, I hear you, sir. Thank you, sir. Give me his name.
They call him Jocko Boy Vanzetti. He's done a lot of things, Jocko Boy has. None of them good. These days, he's a trigger. You wouldn't know that term. It's an old one. It means you give him money, he'll blow the brains out of anybody you'd like him to. I used an older term instead of just saying he's an assassin or a hired gun because, Shut up! I'm the goddamn Batman, sweetheart!
Does he have any family?
Nothing human, as far as I know. He's married to a weasel, but he's an adulterer, seeing a prairie dog behind the weasel's back. You've got a choice to make, and you have to make it now. Avenger or detective? What's it gonna be?
Dick raises the axe above his head, and his narration says that Grayson makes a choice. Except the color of these narration boxes matches Dick's earlier narration boxes, meaning he's now referring to himself in the third person. Yep, he's fully embraced the madness. And he brings the axe down, but doesn't kill Jocko Boy. Just brings it close enough so that it cuts his cheek and nose, because, again, a traumatized 12-year-old has enough control over a heavy axe that he can just do that. I'm almost dead certain that the scene with him killing a rat was an addition by editorial. Why? Because I highly doubt said traumatized 12-year-old, especially in such a short time after his parents have been murdered, when handed the opportunity to take revenge against his parents' killer, would not bring that axe down on his head. The addition of the rat killing allowed Dick to feel disgusted and horrible after killing something, so it makes it easier to believe he wouldn't then try to kill Jocko Boy. But hey, just because he didn't kill him doesn't mean he still can't embrace terrible violence. Jocko Boy, in his own infinite wisdom, calls Dick a son of a bitch, and Dick goes to town kicking the crap out of him with his bare feet. Look, the kid's athletic, I'll admit it, but I have a hard time believing he's really that good at this. And for Pete's sake, he does a flying kick into Jocko Boy's face. Why? Jocko Boy wouldn't have sit up just to get punched and kicked some more. This doesn't make any damn sense. Oh, and speaking of not making sense, there's Steve's commentary.
I had to find a spot with a clearer view. I don't want to miss a bit of this. We'll have to work on that kick. If Jocko Boy had a gun on him, Grayson would be left wide open.
Yeah, Jocko Boy would really be effective with a gun when his hands and feet are tied together behind him. What the hell were you doing? Why the hell didn't you intervene when Dick was bringing the axe down? Scenes like this are why I can't take this seriously as a Batman deconstruction, because there's no chance in hell Batman would ever let Dick be in an opportunity where he might have killed someone. For all his proclamations in this comic about not killing, we've seen no evidence that this version of Batman has any regard for other lives whatsoever. This is Crazy Steve, madman sociopathic hobo with delusions of grandeur.
Decent start, kid, but one of those kicks was a mess. It could have gotten you killed.
How? By tripping? Dick tells Steve to shut up and then starts interrogating the half-unconscious Jocko Boy, who had just realized had all his previous injuries healed in between issues so that Dick could give him new ones. Dick asks who hired him, and Steve says he doesn't like the answer. And so our comic ends with another splash page revealing who did. The Joker. A non-smiling Joker. This comic sucks, but that's no surprise by this point. I'll give this issue something that some of the other issues lacked. It's actually about Batman and Robin. Mind you, it's still far too slow and contains whole swaths of stupidity, but it's actually about the characters. Actually, I take that back, because it's not about them. The All-Star line was supposed to be about distilling the characters down to their most basic elements, but everything about this story is wrong when it comes to these characters. You know, there are lots of bits in The Dark Knight Returns, one of Frank Miller's good Batman works before the aliens replaced his brain with mashed potatoes, where the media tries to paint this picture of Batman as a psychotic lunatic with no empathy and only wanting to hurt people. It's like Frank Miller became one of those very people and thinks that that is what Batman is about. And he seems to think that's a good thing. However, in the immortal words of my favorite movie, violence is not strength and compassion is not weakness. And the Batman of the regular comics understands that most of all. Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Say, it's Miller time. Welcome once again to Miller Time, which is less an actual time and more like a shattered mirror of time hastily glued back together again in the wrong shape. Yes, we're having a Miller Time rather soon after the evisceration of Holy Terror, a review that, according to one commenter, they stopped watching when I said we should give Al-Qaeda the benefit of the doubt. It must be really fun living in your own made-up world where I say and do things that didn't actually happen. Perhaps in some people's eyes, I am actually a badger that reviews late-night talk shows. However, here in the real world, I have to review another issue of Ass Bar. Previously on the All-Star Batman and Robin reviews. Insane, dangerously psychotic hobo Crazy Steve has broken into Bruce Wayne's mansion and now thinks he's Batman. He kidnaps a traumatized child named Dick Grayson, age 12, and proceeds to cripple and violently attack criminals. In addition, Black Canary is inspired by Batman to stop being a Hooters waitress, violently attack people herself, ride around on a motorcycle for 6 months, and then potentially have sex with Batman in the rain. Also, the Justice League is apparently around and meeting in dingy abandoned factories where Superman can be grumpy and Wonder Woman can be grumpy and Green Lantern can be ineffectual and Plastic Man can be a dick. Vicky Vale is also around, but she has no bearing on the plot. She is there for fan service. Because Frank Miller is a dirty old man. And that's pretty much all that's happened in 7 issues! Oh, and I guess the Joker was responsible for the murder of Dick Grayson's parents. Because that sure is a novel concept and not just really contrived and stupid. So let's dig into All-Star Batman and Robin number 8 and see how deep this rabbit hole goes.
Where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. Brodsky, you're not the smartest. Life out, you're not an artist. Anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he's a man punch, wears a purdy hat. Linkara, he has a magic gun. Where'd he purchase that? Linkara. Robots, Amazons, and trucks. Linkara. This comic sucks. Linkara.
Our cover is blech and bland. It's the Joker, with a giant tattoo of a dragon for some reason, wiping off blood on his hands with the Batman cowl. Spoilers! Crazy Steve and the Joker do not encounter one another in this comic, and Steve never takes off his cowl. Someday I should write a book about this. Lies this cover told me. Oh, and a random blood splatter, I think, in the background. While this was drawn by Jim Lee and not Miller himself, the splatter thing is also kind of a trademark of Miller's art to a lesser degree. Maybe he's just trying to remind us that his art could be worse. It could just be him randomly throwing paint splotches everywhere. And yet I'm not convinced it wouldn't make for a better representation of the human body than his art. And you know, I'm usually on board with Jim Lee's art, but this rendering of the Joker is kind of awful. Unless the Joker is supposed to have a really tiny butt and legs not much thicker than his arms. We open with the Joker narrating to himself. Gotham City cries. Gotham is an ugly city, full of shame far beyond redemption. She's a sad old whore. Because with Frankie, it always invariably comes back to prostitution. But she's beautiful when she cries. I love her when she cries. I love her only when she cries. Oh my God, Frank Miller, just go and have sex with a building already! Even the villains are gushing about how much they love their friggin' city! Hey, I know, let's play a game called Good Writer, Bad Writer. Good Writer, Scott Snyder. In his Batman books, in particular Gates of Gotham and the Court of Owls storyline, he talks extensively about the architecture of Gotham, the symbolic meaning behind every brick and mortar, and then creating storylines where that architecture comes into play and asking the question of who really is the one in charge of said city. Bad Writer, Frank Miller. I love this city because of vague poetic metaphor. Purple prose, purple prose, purple prose. Because I love it. I love it. The buildings are like my penis. Erect because I love it. Although from a narrative perspective, I do get why the Joker is suddenly talking like this, even though he has never talked about Gotham like this before. He's being set up as a dark reflection of Batman, who talks about Gotham as this beautiful, sad thing that he also wants to bang. I'll give credit for the attempt, but unfortunately, it really can't get around the fact that it's horrendous writing, continuing Frank's trend of writing everyone in this thing as if it was Sin City. So, what's the clown prince of crime been up to in this comic? Why, he just finished having sex with a lady. Of course. I was just joking that maybe you slipped something into my drink. It's really not my style doing, well, this sort of thing. Not with somebody I barely met. Ha 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 ha! Casual joking about date rape. Frank, I hope you get punched in the crotch by an ornery child. I don't think I even got your name. They call me the Joker, but I'm not very funny. It's a funny name, though. Wasn't there somebody else called Joker who poisoned the water supply a year or so back? That was me! I was just getting started, but that was me. Yeah, noticing a lack of smiling, aren't we? I'll get back to that. But enough talk about me, Donna Gugina. Let's talk about you. You're a woman of some accomplishment. You're an attorney of much repute. A crusader, some say, with a particular passion for hunting down child molesters and bringing them to justice. By most accounts, you're a remarkable woman. And yet, despite that, she apparently was so stupid that she did not recognize a well-known, high-profile criminal like the Joker. What's that you say? He's not as recognized because this is still the early days? Well, you're probably right. So, how does she react to learning that he was the one who poisoned the water supply? No wonder they call you Joker. The things you say. I mean it all, Donna Gugina. Every word. And not even running away at this or showing any concern. She then just wonders how he knows who she is and her whole resume. After he just confessed and said he wasn't joking about trying to murder people! Maybe her repute as a lawyer is more at just how bad she is at it. And just to avoid some image triggers, I will not show the next part, which consists of the Joker punching her, then straddling her body and choking her to death for a whole page while he proclaims that he loves her in his own special way. Can I go back to talking about Jell-O Man? But yeah, the Joker does not smile during any of this. In fact, the Joker does not smile at any point in this comic. Let me repeat that. The Joker does not smile! Even the terrible Brian Azzarello Joker comic had him smiling, and he says he's not funny? The Joker is one of the most egotistical villains in Batman's Rogues Gallery. He would never, ever say that he wasn't funny, and he'd kill you straight away for implying he wasn't. Is this comic set in Bizarro World? Batman is a laughing lunatic who traumatizes children who lost their parents the same way he did. The Joker is unfunny, never smiles, and kills because of love?
Why so serious?
And then the Joker walks out, with the artwork showing Donna's dead body with her shirt open. Sexual violence! Thanks! And tells his henchwoman to get rid of it. And the henchwoman is a short-haired woman with swastika pasties covering her nipples. Most of you are probably confused right now about that, and depending on your point of view, either fortunately or unfortunately, I can explain this. See, Frank is still operating under the delusion that this comic takes place in the same universe as The Dark Knight Returns, despite the fact that none of these characters resemble the people in that work. This lady is Bruno, a minor character from part 2 of the story. She is a neo-Nazi who works for the Joker, and for absolutely no reason at all, walks around topless with swastika pasties on her boobs, and, although we can't see them in this panel, she apparently has them on her ass too. Why does she work for the Joker? Who the hell knows? Frank just probably wanted to draw TNA, and since his Robin in The Dark Knight Returns was a teenage girl, he couldn't do that with her. Not that that seems to stop any other comic artist these days. Frankly, I'm just reminded of a crossover comic between Batman and Captain America, where the Joker works with the Red Skull, until he realizes the Red Skull is an actual Nazi and decides to kick his ass, since he may be a violent sociopath, but he's an American violent sociopath. And now you know who Nazi Boob Lady is.
And knowing makes it even more confusing.
We cut back over to the Batcave, where it's right after the events of the last issue, where Dick Grayson, age 12, almost murdered his parents' killer without our hero even thinking about stopping him.
I gave him a chance to murder the creep who shot his parents to death, and he didn't take it. He's a born detective.
The facts to date would lead to the objective conclusion that he is not.
Dick asks who the Joker is.
He's a very bad man, a psychopath. Do you know what a psychopath is, Grayson?
I do. I've been looking at one for 8 issues.
I'm not sure you're up to polysyllables.
You're one to talk about grammar and words, Frank, considering you repeat yourself more than Law and Order reruns. Be specific. Who is this Joker?
I'm starting to like this little snot. I've always been the smartest kid in the class, but this Grayson, he's something!
Smartest kid in the class? You really are mentally 10 years old yourself, aren't you, Steve? Crazy Steve explains that the Joker is a serial killer, but whatever he's up to is something new for him, and somehow the murder of Dick Grayson, age 12's parents, is involved. Grayson says he wants to get started, but Steve refuses.
You're not ready, son. You're not trained. That spinning kick of yours is from hunger!
Oh yeah, I know that when I get hungry, I perform complex martial arts moves.
You don't even have a mask! Christ, look at you! You could pass for Little Nemo!
And now I just imagine Bruce Wayne, during his Batman training, sitting down to watch a whole bunch of animated films. Think he liked the Iron Giant? And yes, I know he could be referencing the original comic strip. Either way is hilarious to me. He tells the kid to make himself a costume and a mask. Out of what? Axes and batarangs? And then he'll consider it. Why in hell do I... Ugh, that phrasing. Who the hell says, why in hell? Why in hell do I need to wear a mask? I mean, a costume is queer enough. Just keep piling on the casual homophobia, Frank. You sure know how the kids these days talk.
So you'll have a secret identity, stupid!
Crazy Steve's Guide to Talking to Children. Chapter 1. Insulting and belittling them only results in good. Dick Grayson, age 12, points out how idiotic a secret identity is when everyone on Earth saw Steve kidnap him. Steve says he'll figure something out. Batman, the world's greatest public relations spin artist.
I know what I'm doing, Boy Wonder!
Isn't this a strange conversation for men who aren't crazy?
Dick objects to the Boy Wonder name.
So come up with something better, kid. I'm not made out of time.
But apparently you think the readers are, since it took you 3 years to get to the point where Dick started putting together the Robin persona.
And it's time you did something around here.
Whoa now, let's not get into the insanity of us trying to figure out how long he's actually been down in this cave. As far as I can tell, it's been a day tops. Oh, and then Dick Grayson, age 12, asks about the robot T-Rex that's in the cave.
Shut up and get to work on your costume!
I was in a costume too. I went as someone who doesn't make a fool out of himself. How'd you not get that?
And of course, once he's in the car, the only thing Steve can do is whine about how much he hates the kid.
He's driving me nuts with all his questions, and I'm plenty crazy enough as it is.
No argument here, considering you earlier said you were starting to like him. However, his attention is shifted when he notices a great big Green Lantern symbol in the sky.
Not that moron!
I can't really disagree. Hal Jordan is kind of a moron. But first things first, he has to get rid of Jocko Boy.
Worms! Why are there worms coming out of my ears? How come my throat is full of maggots?
The terrifying after effects of the McRib.
Because you're stoned out of your mind, you tub of lard. Maybe this'll wake you up.
And he throws him into a lake or river. Well, he's handcuffed, stoned off his ass, and went face first into water. Yeah, he's dead. Oh wait, somehow he manages to come back up out of the water and scream that the Joker is going to rip him a new one. Also, he can still feel maggots in his throat.
Your condition is permanent. You're never gonna get any better. Welcome to hell, Jocko Boy. Forever.
However, he's quick to narrate that he's lying. Editor's note, we can't print Jocko Boy's response due to standards of decency. That didn't seem to stop you after what happened with issue 10, but I'll get to that in a later episode. Also, for some reason, Steve is bathed in green light in these panels, despite being nowhere near the Green Lantern light right now. Although the Batmobile is supposed to have atomic batteries, so maybe now he's radioactive! That can't be good! Back at the Batcave, there is a half-decent scene where Dick is looking at all the weapons and picks up a bow and arrow, thinking of Robin Hood. Alfred then speaks to him from the shadows, Dick thanking him for giving him food before asking for the materials to make a costume. This is what we needed more of in this comic. It's a little dramatically overwrought, but it feels more significant and, for a lack of a better term, important to the story because it's actually about Dick Grayson figuring out the kind of superhero he wants to be. But enough of that nonsense. Let's check back in with Crazy Steve as he narrates about how he's probably screwed over Dick's life.
But I can't think about that right now. I've got a retarded demigod to take care of.
If you keep speaking like an immature grade schooler, of course we'll like you eventually. You know, if space is curved and everything circles back around from hatred to likability. And of course, Hal Jordan is just sitting with a hot dog and soda while he does the Green Lantern symbol in the sky.
What do you want, Jordan?
How the heck do you know my name?
I know everything.
But I'm not telling it.
This scene is just here so Steve can boast about how Hal Jordan sucks and he's stupid and his outfit and car are so totally not gay. And shut up, I'm not 9 years old. I'm an adult and mature, you poophead.
The clown makes oversized egg beaters and mouse traps and vacuum cleaners when he could set the whole world straight with that ring. What a damn idiot. The things I do with power like that. It's such a damn waste. He's worse than Kent.
Some men just want to watch the world burn.
In In a lot of papers analyzing Frank Miller's work, there's this continuing trend of interpretation that Frank Miller is a fascist, mostly because his heroes, the ones he writes about and continually claims are the good guys, have this authoritarian trend to them, demanding everyone around them obey them and that they know best. The rest of the world is stupid or naive or corrupt, and he's the only smart person in the room. All-Star Batman and Robin is no different in that regard. But the thing is that Frank Miller's fascism is a weird kind of fascism. Instead of believing in a central government authority is what should be in charge, it's this bizarre non-establishment moral hero like Crazy Steve or the Fixer or the Sin City main heroic quote-unquote characters. Hell, you can even see that to a degree with the woman from the RoboCop vs. Terminator comic, a resistance fighter who knows better than everybody else. His form of fascism is not to a dictator or an elected official, it's to someone who's just better and smarter and more skilled than everybody else, but is an underdog in society, and if only everybody listened to them, everything would be better. And thus we have this version of Batman, who wants to use the Green Lantern ring to force everyone on Earth to obey his whims and will, simply because he had the power to back it up. Frank's characters are ones who believe that might makes right. They're proverbially stronger than others in some way, and thus they are right. They are correct. They are the paragon of everything we should look up to. Whereas I firmly believe in might for right. Those who are powerful should use their power to do good things because they're good things. Because using your power to force others to do what you say is not heroic. It's being a bully. But enough speeches, let's see that in action some more. I want to talk.
Okay, so we'll talk. We'll talk where and when I say so.
And that's when Hal picks him up with giant green tweezers and says, "No, screw you, asshole. We'll talk right now or I'll drag you to the police station for kidnapping, assault, and murder." Or at least that's what should happen, since Hal Jordan might be stupid, but he's not that kind of stupid. But no, GL goes along with the specified location and just says, "What a creep. I don't think I like this guy at all." Because, you know, Air Force pilots are well known for being so milquetoast that Crazy Steve could have thrown rocks at him during this entire conversation without objection. We cut over to Gotham's East Side, where we see Catwoman laying on a bed with a dozen cats around her. The Joker has come to see her, still not smiling, and she says she doesn't play it as rough as he does. I'm guessing she's still supposed to be a prostitute in this. But no, Joker says he just wants to cause some mischief and asks if she's up for it. And useless 3-panel scene over.
I thought my jokes were bad.
Back over to the Batcave, Dick tries to kill Steve with an arrow, but unfortunately Steve is able to catch it out of the air. Damn. Don't call me kid. Don't call me boy. Don't call me brat. Don't call me a little snot. Call me the artist. Call me Hood. My dad was always making me watch some old movie about Robin Hood. That's why I became an archer.
But archers aren't detectives! You're not playing right!
However, Steve has a problem with this.
Do you know what any thug with half a brain would do with that hood?
Well, I could make a cap, or a brooch, or pterodactyl.
No, he just pulls it down over his head. Yeah, and it's a good thing that you don't have anything on that might be ill-conducive in a fight, like a cape or something. And so our comic ends with this declaration.
Lose the hood, you're Robin!
You know what I find so damn funny about this? When Damian Wayne, Bruce's son, long story, became Robin, his costume was notable for having a hood on it. I wonder if Grant Morrison deliberately did that just as a middle finger to this story. I have no proof of that, obviously, but that's gonna be my headcanon. This comic sucks! Aside from the standard Miller crap on display, the characters are completely reversed from how any of them should act. Most of it is annoying bickering, unnecessary violence, or Crazy Steve complaining. You know, I wouldn't even be against the whole Robin chooses not to wear the hood because of criminals pulling it over his head thing, but why not actually have that happen during a fight with criminals, and then they decide the hood isn't a great idea for him? And why does he drop the archery thing just because he's Robin now and not the hood? Only 2 more issues of Ass Bar remain, folks. Most of this story will be left incomplete, but it's not like the ending would have been that satisfying anyway. Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Welcome to the first new episode of the show in 2015! The future is now, my friends! And dear Lord, the future sucks already because we're starting things off with Ass Bar. Last time on Crazy Steve's Magical Drug Journey of Madness, Steve ranted in his own brain about how much cooler he was than Green Lantern because he drugged a guy and threw him into some water, whereas all Green Lantern has is his ring granted to him by powerful aliens because he is someone who is without fear and thus is not intimidated by Steve's murderous ways. Dick Grayson, age 12, decided on becoming the Hood, but Steve put the kibosh on that since a criminal can pull the hood over his eyes. Unlike that cape he's wearing. And you would think that he'd teach the kid to fight blind anyway. Oh wait, I keep trying to compare him with Batman's teaching. I'm sure Steve has just only now gotten used to going blind from that moonshine he's been distilling down in the cave. But anyway, yeah, Steve says he's going to be Robin, because he's a dick. And Dick is Robin. Wait, what? Whatever, let's just dig into All-Star Batman and Robin number 9 and see what new spore of madness awaits us in 2015.
Welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. Brodsky, you're not the smartest. Life out, you're not an artist. Anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he's a man punch, wears a birdie hat. Linkara, he has a magic gun. Where'd he purchase that? Linkara, coins, robots, Amazons and trucks. Linkara, this comic sucks. Linkara.
The cover is boring. I love how most modern mainstream comics have officially just stopped caring about the covers. This came out in 2008, and what does it have? Batman and Robin in front of a green-tinted spotlight. You might be able to get away with saying it's Green Lantern doing that if there had been a Green Lantern symbol in there, but instead it just looks like a regular spotlight. That's it. You could only get lazier with this cover design if they weren't posing, just standing up straight. And I've seen modern comics where that is all that's on there. Or them running, that's also a popular one. This comic is one of the most infamous of the series, though you could probably argue that every issue of this book is infamous in one way or another, with a very memorable setup and premise, and this is what Jim Lee decided to do with it. A spotlight on the two. Goody goody gumdrops. This'll get people buying the book in droves. We open with Green Lantern and Crazy Steve so close to each other that they look like they're about to kiss.
I hate you, Green Lantern! I'm so much cooler than you! Hate! Let's make out. It's a shame to expose one of my safe houses. Now it'll be useless, but I've got dozens around town, and this one's rent wouldn't amount to a valet tip.
If it's a shame and you hate that it'll be useless now, why did you bring him here, and why do you not care in the next sentence? Dear Lord, Steve apparently painted his teeth yellow too. Or are they naturally like that? I mean, I'm not exactly perfect in my own dental care, but if that's not paint, that can't be healthy. Speaking of not being healthy,
this guy really grinds my gears.
Evidence that this is some kind of malfunctioning Batman robot.
Here he's got a power ring that can do anything he can imagine. But that's his whole problem. He's got the imagination of a goddamn potato.
Hey, don't be knocking potatoes. I much prefer their company to yours.
He makes giant green fishing poles and mouse traps when he could, well, put that ring on my finger, and just as a warm-up, I'd send a few tidal waves in just the right directions. Knock out a few enemy fleets.
Does he think he's neutral? Also, what enemy fleets? Who does he think we're at war with? Or is this Frank Miller perpetuating his conspiracy theory belief that Al-Qaeda has the full resources of any nation's armed forces?
Then get started on bringing some real firepower to a nasty ground war or two.
Our hero, everybody!
Then maybe I'd spank Superman's butt back to what's left of Krypton, just for laughs.
Crazy Steve, age 12.
Thing is, old Hal Jordan, that's his real name, the moron can't keep any secrets from me.
Who are you talking to?
Old Hal, he can't even make himself a green dandelion with that ring of his if what he's up against is yellow. Dumbest weakness I ever heard of.
As opposed to your weakness, petty childishness and a fragile ego. I remind you, this guy is supposed to be the one we're rooting for. This is not a deconstruction. All of the stuff he says in this comic is echoed later in The Dark Knight Returns and Strikes Again. The only difference is that Dark Knight Returns handled a lot of the phrases better, plus it was a very different Gotham City than what we see in this comic. And Strikes Again was just moronic. You know, one of the things Miller said concerning Batman and his relationship with other heroes for The Dark Knight Returns was that he didn't think they ever got along with him, Superman in particular. Except clearly we see in that story that he did get along with him. That was the ultimate tragedy of their final battle in the book. In this, why would anyone be friends with or agree with this murderous fascist with delusions of grandeur? Batman, and by extension all superheroes, exist in their respective universes to combat crime that can't be fought by normal law enforcement within the system. That there are just people that can't be stopped by normal means. But of course, there's a reason why Spider-Man has the catchphrase, "With great power comes great responsibility." Because when you do have the kind of powers that guys like Green Lantern have, it's important to not abuse that power, or else you aren't any better than the criminal with a gun who thinks he's superior to others because of it. And before anyone says that that lesson is obvious and I shouldn't need to espouse it, I'm holding a comic book where someone calling himself Batman wants to unilaterally take over the world and is supposed to be the hero. So clearly it's not quite as obvious a lesson as we thought. It's especially funny when we bring up Green Lantern into this with Batman. Steve keeps yapping about how Hal is stupid for not executing a plan for world domination. Except as part of the Green Lantern mythos, Hal's partner was Sinestro, a Green Lantern who ended up turning his world into a dictatorship exactly like Steve wants to here. I would say it's Frank Miller being clever and that Batman was intended to grow out of this attitude. Except Miller is not that subtle, not that clever, and it's the 9th damn issue! I'm still waiting on this supposed development! Or are we supposed to infer that he's gotten better now because he doesn't call people retarded to their faces anymore?
I don't know about this yellow hang-up of his. Seems to me the Guardians of the Universe could have whipped up an ultimate weapon that was colorblind in their sleep.
Dude, design flaws happen! Also, giant alien space bugs made of living fear that happens to be contained within the central power battery, but let's not get into that. Crazy Steve is really that one asshole who has never read a comic book in his life, but feels he can comment or joke on things in them as if he has any authority on the subject. But whatever, he had Robin paint this entire place yellow. And himself.
The kid impressed the hell out of me after I showed him the paint cans and roller. Sure, he bellyached every minute and quit being the boy wonder 8 times, but he finished the job with nearly an hour to spare. It was really difficult getting that paint roller into every nook and cranny of my body, but I think it was worth it. Fast hands, my little Robin.
I was kidding!
Fast hands, big mouth.
Stop talking! Green Lantern tells him that a lot of people want him brought down, but Steve isn't worried about it.
Then there's you and that little Joy Luck club you're putting together.
He's just mad because they don't invite him to play Mahjong anymore.
Your turn, Batman.
Ah, four of a kind. Now, this tile. Rin Kaiho. You lose, Batman. That's 8,000 points right there.
This game is stupid! I'm not wearing hockey pads!
Well, that was weird.
Where are we gonna find another player? Snowflame is the best at Parcheesi! No, not him.
4 of you by my count. The Wicked Witch of Lesbos Island.
Just want to remind you all that the guy who's trying to be sexist and homophobic is the one who put paint on his teeth.
The last candy pants of a blown up planet. Stupid poophead lost his parents and his entire species. Nerd! A shape changer who's nuttier than a fruitcake.
Yeah, I still don't understand why Plastic Man is part of this group. I mean, yeah, he was in Dark Knight Strikes Again, but it's not like he was really all that pivotal a character.
And you, master of the giant green egg beater, when you're not plagued by a certain primary color. Care for a glass of lemonade? Robin got pink lemonade by mistake, but we painted it yellow anyway.
Actually, Steve accidentally eating tons of paint would explain a lot. Dear Lord, can you believe we're only on the 3rd page? There's just so much text crammed into every panel. Miller, you're not writing a friggin' novel. Oh, but we certainly couldn't miss out on this scintillating dialogue. It'd just ruin the whole story if we didn't have Steve trying to insult Wonder Woman by calling her a lesbian, because in his mind that is apparently something to be ashamed of. No, I think it's pretty clear what happened. Steve made a pass at her, and she rejected the smelly man in a batsuit who liked to talk about the fast hands of the little boy he kidnapped. Anyway, Lantern says they don't mind him fighting crime, just the way he's doing it. By scaring people. Steve reminds him that scaring people is the entire idea. To scare street-level criminals while guys like Green Lantern handle giant monsters and the like.
Those monsters you don't fight, they tend to step on little guys.
Hal responds that all he does is put victims in the hospital instead of in jail.
Have you taken a look at Gotham's crime rate lately, Hal? Never mind the corporate stuff. I'm not taking them on just yet.
And yet, Candy Pants Superman regularly takes it on, since his arch-nemesis is businessman Lex Luthor. Point Superman.
You should really try the lemonade. On a hot day like this, it's a godsend.
It's the middle of the night! Not even this guy knows what time it is anymore!
Damn you and your lemonade!
Well, screw you too. What I love about this whole painting everything yellow bit is how utterly pointless it is. In an issue of Booster Gold, Booster once traveled in time and encountered Sinestro as a Green Lantern. He figured he was safe from the ring because of all the yellow on his outfit. Of course, since the Lanterns are well aware of the weakness to yellow, they train to get around it. For example, all that Hal has to do is fly outside, grab a car with his ring, and slam the car into this place. Suddenly, the yellow is covered in dirt and car, and this exercise in dick measuring is over. But no, Hal instead just decks Crazy Steve. Which, I've got to admit, is actually pretty satisfying to see after all this crap.
You son of a bitch! You'll ruin everything!
And happiness over because I'm now reminded of Superboy Prime. Hal yells at Steve over the fact that he put Dick Grayson in a costume.
Excuse me? I'm not sure I get you, Hal.
He's a rube. It's the 2000s in this comic. No child says rube. Steve claims that Robin is not Dick Grayson.
I rescued Dick Grayson from a pack of corrupt cops. I admitted him to a trauma clinic. They kept his identity a secret to avoid undue attention. Figured the boy had been through enough.
In case you thought he couldn't be any more of an asshole, he knows what he should have done and still tried to make Dick eat rats. Our hero! You know, it really says something when the Batman from those old Batman vs. the Wizard serials is a superior incarnation. And that Batman kept his outfit in a file cabinet. And yeah, we get a flashback to yesterday where Dick is talking to reporters with a newspaper behind him featuring the last page of the first issue as a photo. Normally I'd call this out as bullcrap, but upon looking at the first two issues again, Vicky Vale did have her camera out at the end of the first issue and was still conscious and able to speak at the beginning of the second, so yeah, she could have gotten this shot. Kudos. Ugh, I feel dirty giving this comic any kind of praise. Hal doesn't buy it, actually deducing pretty quickly that Steve must be a billionaire who paid off everyone in the clinic. So much for him being stupid. He's got a point there. Maybe he's right. Maybe I am Dick Grayson. Sorry, but I'm still not sold on you being the people you're supposed to be. Hal gets paint on his face, which I assume is supposed to be funny or show him as a dork, but it's not funny. He's just got paint on him because he's walking around a freshly painted environment. You are trying to pass him off as looking silly when you literally painted yourselves entirely in yellow! It's even dumber because of internal continuity. Long shots showed paint on Hal's boots, but the full body shot doesn't show any paint on them. Also, Robin is reading a comic book that has also been painted yellow aside from the inside pages. And yet we can see text on its outside, which we shouldn't be able to discern because the yellow would cover it. Steve starts to spin a yarn about who Robin is, but he stops himself.
I don't know you, and I don't particularly like you, but you wear the tights. That's got to count for something. I can't just out and out lie to you.
And then he immediately out and out lies to him by saying he's not Dick Grayson. I hate this comic. Oh, but it gets better. Hal starts walking off and tells him to go to hell. Then where's that ring of yours, Mr. Green Jeans? Then? What do you mean, then? He said go to hell. Did no one edit this? Ugh. In any case, Robin has stolen the ring right off Hal's hand. Ugh. I want to argue about this, but it's pretty inconsistent across the board whether someone can just snatch a power ring off someone's finger like that. Sometimes they can, sometimes they can't. And the fact that it's inconsistent bugs me like hell. It's an obvious safety feature for a weapon like this, and really not outside the realm of possibility that they'd be programmed to stay firmly attached to a Green Lantern's finger while it still had power. The Guardians of the Universe are arrogant, self-important, short-sighted dickweeds, but they're not that kind of stupid. This is basic. And yet it seems to be that the wearer needs to actively be aware of a theft in progress in order to keep it from being stolen, which is just dumb! When it happens like this, it's just yet again there to have all glory to the Bat God, to show how cool Batman is because he doesn't need fancy powers to defeat his enemies, except it is a superpower. It's called lazy writing, because true cleverness is finding ways to fool or get around difficulties, not just letting them get away with whatever is convenient for the moment. I'm also really curious of when he got the ring off. Looking back, there's only one opportunity for Robin to be close enough to Hal to take the ring off, when he's pointing at him, except his ring is in a closed fist when he's pointing, so he would have noticed. But whatever, he charges at him to get the ring back, but Robin dives between Hal's legs and tosses the ring over to Steve, who drops it in a yellow-coated tube. Congratulations, Steve! You can now take over the world with all that power you now possess. Because I'm sure in this universe, he can totally figure out how to make the ring work for him. In the ensuing fight, Robin kicks Hal's ass, but all of a sudden he delivers a chop to Hal's neck so hard it must have damaged his throat severely. Angered by this, Steve tosses Robin into a wall, and he punches him right in the face. Child abuse! Our hero, everyone. I do something wrong?
Shut up while I figure out a way to trach this guy. The last thing we need is a corpse on our hands, you stupid little snot!
Hasn't slowed you down so far, asshole! He has Robin break off a tube to create a makeshift breathing tube to jab into Hal's neck. You know, putting the ring back on might help as well, but we never see him give the ring back. And Steve takes off his mask for no reason. Seriously, there is absolutely no reason for it. He just takes off the mask. This is the weirdest time to find out that Batman is Bruce Wayne, but this is no time for thinking. The mantra of this entire series. They save Hal's life and Steve instructs Robin to call an ambulance.
And if you puke, I'll break your goddamn neck!
I looked at the credits again. The editor for this was Bob Schreck, the same guy who got laid off from DC and brought Frank Miller with him to produce Holy Terror for Legendary. This is all starting to make sense, actually. I mean, from a meta perspective. It's still not making any sense in story, as we cut to them later walking in the outskirts of the city. It's raining, which washes off all the paint. Except it shouldn't wash off the paint on their outfits, since it's soaked into their clothes, and even a heavy rain isn't going to fix that, but whatever. Robin narrates about how sick he feels about having almost killed a man and enjoyed the sensation, an idea that doesn't make him particularly happy. Steve's own narration on the next page proves that he's realized what a terrible mistake he's made. He had tons and tons of training over several years, plus Alfred's emotional support, before he ever tried to do this, and he forced this on Dick Grayson, age 12, in weeks. Wait, weeks? It's been weeks?!
Space is warped and time is bendable.
I had years to grieve. This wouldn't have happened in my day. This is all rock and roll's fault.
So Steve is just squatting here.
Come on, kid. Let's ride. I'll summon the Batmobile by making it look like I need to poop.
And indeed, they drive the Batmobile out to a cemetery where Dick's parents are buried. In a rather unremarkable grave, I must say. It just says Grayson on it, not even their individual names. Dick is, of course, sad and angry and hurt and starts punching the gravestone, probably breaking his hands on top of the broken jaw Steve gave him. So his parents wanted to be buried in Gotham? They were part of a traveling circus, after all, and a trapeze act. You'd think they'd have stipulated where they wanted to be laid to rest. And so our comic ends with Steve embracing Robin as they cry in front of the slanted headstone.
We mourn lives lost, including our own.
Huh. That's actually rather profound. Once again, kudos. Ugh, there's that feeling again from giving this thing praise. I need a shower. But first, this comic sucks. Congratulations! An entire issue of just our purported heroes talking to Green Lantern, and Steve just talking about how much cooler he is than Green Jeans. And then almost getting him killed because of his improper training to the 12-year-old. I'd almost say this issue was meant to turn the series around, but then you remember it's the comic where Batman covered himself in yellow paint, even to his teeth. Actually, maybe that's it. Instead of causing further damage, the paint is actually repairing his brain. Fortunately for our own sanities, there is only one more issue of Aspar left. And it's not in this trade for some reason, so I have to go get myself a copy of it. Then we can move on to non-Batman things that Frank Miller has made. And I just realized I never said this was Miller time. Screw it. Next week, more Godzilla. Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Say! It's Miller time! Welcome back to Miller Time, and a very special Miller Time at that. It's the conclusion to All-Star Batman and Robin! And no, I don't believe it's ever coming back! Shut up and don't jinx it! But since this is the finale to this long-running series, let's take a look back at those great moments from this book. Yeah, I know I didn't show anything. That's because there weren't any! All-Star Batman and Robin is one of the worst books ever to bear the Dark Knight's name on it, standing alongside such dreck as Batman Odyssey, Fortunate Son, and, well, let's face it, pretty much any terrible crossover event he's forced to do a tie-in issue for. The name was so tainted by association with this that I don't even call him that in this book, preferring my theory that it is instead some homeless person suffering from homicidal delusions that he is Batman, whom I refer to as Crazy Steve. The best praise anyone could give to it is that it's so bad it's hilarious, damning it with faint praise, since in order for you to have that hilarious part, you have to remember it's still really bad. Bad characterization, bad dialogue, bad pacing, bad fight scenes, and most especially bad scheduling. 10 issues over the course of a few years. And oh so much happened in those 10 issues. Why, it took them a whole 9 issues to actually have Robin in it, and not just Dick Grayson, age 12. It has been 8 years since this issue came out, and yet DC is still trying to get it going again. They've been talking about bringing it back as a Dark Knight Boy Wonder since 2011. Still nothing released in another 5 years. Here's an idea: don't announce something unless it's done. And yet, according to Wikipedia, Frank Miller said at New York Comic-Con in October 2015 that he had just started working on making a sequel series to this with Jim Lee. Oh great! A sequel to a series that was never even finished! Want a plot synopsis? Too bad! It's issue 10 and there still isn't any sign of a plot. Crazy person abducts child, calls things retarded to show how mature he is, laughs as he beats up people, the Joker doesn't smile, Batman's more worried about having a pissing contest with Green Lantern, and I'm pretty sure with all the bizarre timestamps on this thing that Dick Grayson was kidnapped several hours before his parents were murdered. But hey, at least I'll never have to read another Frank Miller penned Batman story, and we can finally move on to some of his other works that, oh, for the love of... And yeah, I'll get to that one eventually, although amusingly, even Frank Miller has admitted that he barely wrote the damn thing, that Brian Azzarello pretty much did all of it, meaning it's actually better than The Dark Knight Strikes Again. But that's not saying much. And even though it took them 3 years to release this book, it's taken me 7 years to review all of it. Longer if you count the original text reviews. So let's dig into All-Star Batman and Robin number 10 and finally put this series to rest.
Welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. Brodsky, you're not the smartest. Life out, you're not an artist. Anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he's a man punch, wears a birdie hat. Linkara, he has a magic gun. Where'd he purchase that? Linkara, coins, robots, Amazon and trucks. Linkara, this comic sucks. Linkara.
Our cover is boring. Batman and Robin stare at us. I'll give it credit that in terms of coloring, it's exactly the way it should be. Batman obscured half in the shadows, while Robin is bright and colorful, but as a cover, it's just basically poster fodder. You could have put this cover on any of the other issues and it would have fit. Sure, he wasn't Robin for the first several, but that didn't stop him from appearing in some of the variants. And maybe this is actually an homage to another cover like the last issues turned out to be. Except I don't care, because all that suggests is that they cared more about homaging something than actually crafting something unique for this comic. We open 1 week later. It's been 1 week since Robin almost killed a man. Can't wait to see the fallout and consequences from that. Oh wait, there aren't any, since why would there be? A fog settles, made for lonely walks and stolen kisses. Gotham floats, a cloud city. Considering Billy D. Williams was also Harvey Dent once, I can believe it's a cloud city. Anyway, blah blah, neo-noir narration about Gotham. The point is that Jim Gordon is sitting on the docks smoking a cigarette. You know, I've been reading a lot about that Superman they've got over in Metropolis. Lane's been eating up every front page of the Planet with that exclusive interview she got out of him. Gordon talks more about Superman, about how in the interview he talked about the Fortress of Solitude, which Gordon likes. I think we all, or a lot of us anyway, have our own places like that. Maybe we'd go crazy if we didn't. It might be the corner saloon, or a spot in the woods that nobody else visits, or a forgotten stretch of timeless waterfront like this one. When I walked the Night Beat back in my Chicago days, there was this stretch of nothing a few blocks away from the Cabrini Green projects. I'd hit that stretch at 2 a.m. sharp. There was nothing there. Nobody. Just one boarded up storefront after another. Just me and a whole lot of nothing. Yeah, I can't imagine what a whole lot of nothing feels like in relation to this comic. I joke, but this monologue, I actually think it's really damn good. It really does bring to mind the neo-noir success that Frank Miller had when he created Sin City. This kind of nihilism and poetry about the human condition, or hell, any kind of humanity that's been sorely lacking in this book. There's no stupid repetition of phrases, just a cop talking, finding an all-too-human idea from a superhuman source. And Lord knows it's very much needed from a book that thinks rampant violence, both physical and emotional, is the solution to all of life's problems. But here's the problem. Gordon is here to drop off a note for Batman, one that sounds like it's, critical and important, and he's too busy navel-gazing to get the job done. Even the narration says, it's about goddamn time, like Crazy Steve himself is sick of Gordon's rambling. He talks about a police officer who found Catwoman in an alley, beaten up badly, and saying she needed to get a message to Steve. She refused help. She was, he noted in his report, pointedly rude to young Officer Stavros. Well, maybe that's because Officer Stavros was reaching for his gun against the bleeding, rambling woman in a purple cat costume. This Catwoman handed a wad of crumpled up cardboard to young Stavros. She seemed to fall backward, but that was a trick. She'd slipped into the shadows, like another costumed nutcase I know makes a habit of doing. Yeah, but Batman usually waits for people to stop looking at him before he does that. Catwoman in this is apparently Shadowcat. Oh, never mind. The panel clearly shows a trail of blood leading into an open manhole. Stavros is just really bad at his job. I took Stavros's report and looked the piece of cardboard over. Corrugated, just as I suspected. It was a note written in blood. It didn't make any sense.
Who would do that? Someone who badly needed a pen?
Just one lunatic in tights writing to another. Not worth my time or a nickel of taxpayer money. Not worth a damn to anybody. Anyway, thanks for listening, Fish. You're the only one who understands me. Crazy Steve and Dick Grayson, age 12, are of course underneath the pier and catch the note, which simply says, the first time, in remarkably good penmanship for something scrawled in blood.
You said it, cop. Not worth your time. Not worth a damn to anybody. But us lunatics in tights, we've got a way of looking out for each other. That's why I continually insult, belittle, and humiliate the Justice League. I have people skills. I am good at dealing with people.
Gordon returns to his car. And does Mr. Goddamn Batman say so much as thanks? Of course not. That'd hardly be grim and gritty, would it? The jerk. Hardly anything in this comic has been gritty. Grim, certainly, but only in the sense of, oh dear lord, he's serious, isn't he? Gordon's wife has been calling, but she's been drinking, and she hangs up on him when he asks about that. Barbara, dear Barbara, nothing's been the same since Sarah. Sweet Sarah. Aw, there's the repetitive, awful dialogue of Miller. I was worried someone else took over for this and was trying to do a better job than him. But I guess he fought whoever that was off so he could get back in his chair to continue. Next up is a splash page of Steve and Robin falling down a manhole, presumably the same one Catwoman went down, although Gordon never mentioned which alleyway she was found in. But I'm just wondering how wide this thing is, or why they felt the need to leap down, since I would assume there would be a ladder. Otherwise, what purpose does the manhole serve if it's not an entranceway to a part of the sewer?
Take an airplane over Gotham at night, and she looks like diamonds against black velvet. A promise of love, a paradise.
Okay, Frank, the buildings have filed a restraining order against you. Get a new fetish.
Walk her streets, and you'll jump at her every shadow.
Why?
And every scurrying rat sounds like Satan's claws just behind you.
Nah, that's just Chapel, whom the narrator thinks is Satan.
And here, below, her street sounds surrender to wet silence and narrow deep cold. The smells take over, old smells, smells used and used again, festering smells, the kind that carry the throat-deep taste of yesterday's vomit.
That's because it's a sewer! Frank Miller, the man who tries desperately to make human bodily waste seem poetic and exciting. The next little paragraph, oh, by the way, most comic writing guides recommend reducing the amount of words per panel, or splash page in this case, as much as possible. Things like that can be bent or broken by people who know what they're doing. Like Frank here, because heaven forbid we cut any of this. The next little paragraph is basically,
my parents are dead,
although thankfully lacking any references to touching his mother's breast. You know, people have tried to defend that line as being non-sexual, which, sorry, kind of hard to do that with the writer who explicitly put in his script for the first issue, make them drool. I'm shameless, let's go with an ass shot. Balloons from above, she's got one fine ass. Quite appropriate, considering Frank Miller himself is one fine ass. Oh, I'm sure the intent was not sexual, but Frank Miller is the guy who, even when he's trying to make a racist screed, can't help himself but sexualize women. He is the creepy pervert who walks around with mirrors on his shoes to try to look up women's skirts. The only reason he isn't the dog from Cho Dengeki Striker is because I'm pretty sure he's not a pedophile. This is the guy who gave an interview in Playboy magazine in 2014 where he pretty explicitly said that gender roles should be the way they were in the 1940s. Although I'm assuming he meant 1950s and not wartime when women took up the same jobs as guys, since he then directly said that men have a biological function to be protective of women, and then insulted the idea that a man and woman in a relationship be friends with one another. What's that? I've made my point? Well, obviously I haven't, because we are on issue 10 of this series, and people are still trying to defend it! But whatever, let's get back to the story.
This one, a 12-year-old dynamo, dances like a pixie across a filthy room and makes a bullet of his fist and crushes a good man's trachea like it's a stalk of celery. He crushes it, crushes it, crushes it, almost killing that good man.
Ah yes, a good man. You've always felt that Hal Jordan was a good man. Say, how did you describe him in issue 8 again?
Not that moron! I've got a retarded demigod to take care of. He's just a clown with more power than he knows what to do with. What an idiot! He's worse than Kent!
Truly, Steve has nothing but respect and admiration for this good man.
Wet sounds, marrow deep cold, used smells. They're all wiped out with a road and a shudder and a blast of soot and dirt and coughed up coal dust that lets you know how old-time miners felt in their last choking, dizzying, living instant.
Here, that's interesting. Of course, it's gibberish, but it's interesting nonetheless.
The air crackles and sparks, and 50-year-old metal screams as a juggernaut they call a local reminds the rats and worms and beetles and termites that our invasion never ends. Buy war bonds today to support our efforts against rodents, insects, and all other associated creatures. They also hitch a ride on top of a subway train, which I guess is directly connected to the sewers? What? Gotham's architecture confuses me. The next page is another splash page where they find Catwoman. By the way, it's a splash page after two-page spreads and another splash page. It's been said that the holdup for new issues was not Frank's fault, but rather Jim Lee's, which, fair enough, art takes time, but apparently his shortcut to getting the book out in a timely fashion is to just make more and more splashes and spreads. Oh, and it turns out the two knew where to find her because the note, the first time, is a reference to where Batman and Catwoman first had sex together. In a subway tunnel, or possibly a sewer. So which option do you think was more romantic for them? The loud screech and wind of subway cars passing by, or the smell of feces? Although, don't discount the smells in the subway either. There seems to be green smoke emanating from the pipes. Plus, it's a big city, so I assume many people have probably urinated around here. Also, gotta love how, even though Catwoman is not a professional dominatrix like Frank wrote her as in Batman Year One, and in a story where she has been abused to near death, that it still ends up being about sex. You guys ever hear of the virgin/whore dichotomy? I'm pretty sure with Frank Miller, it's only the latter. Oh, and by the way, it is at this point in issue 10, with Crazy Steve cradling Catwoman in his arms and talking about how much he loves her and wants to keep her safe, ignoring that like 2 weeks ago he had sex with Black Canary in the rain, and that she'll be okay, and Dick Grayson, age 12, signaling Alfred for a helicopter to pick them up, that we say farewell to these two. Yeah, I'm not even kidding. The rest of the comic does not feature them. So this is the last we shall see of the psychopathic hobo who stole Batman's outfit and the traumatized youth of indeterminate age. Farewell, people who kinda sorta resembled heroes if you squinted at them enough. I hope you both get the help you so desperately need. Hey, you little... And it's now time to explain why this issue in particular is so infamous. I mean, most of these issues have a unique quirk to them that makes them so remembered, but this one got the book recalled. You see, due to a printing error, these censor bars you're seeing, yeah, somehow the ink on all the swear words for them got screwed up, displaying the cussing in bright gray ink on top of the bars. Now, I do not have scans of that version, and the prices demanded for copies of that version are outrageous, sometimes over $100, so there was no way in hell I was getting it for this review. But what I do have is an uncensored version entirely, without any bars. Either because someone demanded it, or someone went to the effort of removing the bars and restoring the text. What's funny to me is that they actually bothered to do it like this to begin with, or to even have any actual swear words there. It was said at the time that it was done so the words could have the appropriate spacing, but they intended to cover them up anyway, so why even do that? Or hell, just make substitute words. The poor letterer had to bother to put it all in there for nothing but what I presume is supposed to be a gag, since while they understandably didn't want to have the C word in a Batman comic intended for a general audience, yeah, seriously, but they also cover up ass and asshole, even though both have been used already in the damn book. Oh, and this takes place less than an hour ago. Now, you might be thinking, well, that's the first time the timestamp actually makes sense, since obviously Gordon's wife was calling him about Barbara. Well, that's because you're not a stupid person, but I think we've established already that Frank is, since, yeah, the call was unrelated. So now we've finally caught up again with Barbara as Batgirl again. What's she up to? Well, she's gone to a local entertainment area for kids that has been turned into a hot spot for drug dealers. She steals a skateboard from a dealer who keeps calling her a certain word you sure as hell will never hear me say, not even in a movie. But soft! Let us enjoy more of the Shakespearean wordsmithing that Frank Miller has to offer. Little jailbait! Making us look bad! We cut her, come on!
and no comma in "we cut her, come on." But wait, there's more! Sweet piece in sweet slices, tasty sliced booty, the little Are these two cannibals? What the hell is with that sentence even? Sweet piece in sweet slices, tasty sliced booty, the little
You need to put each and every one of these words in their correct order.
So yeah, she knocks out some drug dealers and for some reason a crowd starts attacking the drug dealers too? But enough of that scene, over to Black Canary, where she gives a lengthy friggin' monologue in narrative captions about walking into a bar or warehouse or something full of pimps and loan sharks and possibly human traffickers. She suddenly gets into that later on, but it just goes on and on, beating them all up, stealing all their money, and then setting fire to the place so they'll all burn to death. Oh, and for some reason, Frank decided to inform us that it was 7 minutes between her setting the place ablaze and her getting on a motorcycle and onto a conveniently placed ramp.
John Freeman ramped off the building and did a backflip and landed.
And what a coinkydink! Gordon and his partner are driving by. Name me a law that nutcase broad isn't breaking! Well, I'm pretty sure she's not committing perjury right now, so she's got that going for her. But Gordon tells him to ignore her, since we soon discover why his wife was calling. She got into a car accident and managed to crawl half a mile away despite bleeding and a head wound. An ambulance has her on the way to St. Rosalind's. No, reroute them to St. Maryland's. It's only 2 blocks further, and they've got a better shock trauma unit. We'll meet them there.
Finally, a human who isn't stupider than watercolors. It's about time.
Back over to Batgirl, it turns out that when you start a riot starts. So it's likely people are going to get killed, which she objects to. She ends up getting knocked down by one of the rioters, but quickly is picked up by arriving police and arrested. And hey, one of the final timestamps of this series is shown as we cut over to the hospital. Soon enough. Wow, it's almost like all of those earlier timestamps were completely unnecessary and could have just had vague indicators of the passage of time if you really needed them at all. Which you didn't. The doctor is talking to Gordon about his wife's condition. She's okay for now, but her alcoholism has gotten severely dangerous, and not just in terms of her crashing cars. To make matters worse, another cop informs him of how his daughter has been arrested. Well, to be accurate, they parrot the myth of she only has one phone call, but I'll grant narrative license for that one. She's telling him that she doesn't want him to use his position to help her. She'll plead guilty to the charges and accept whatever punishment is given. She also gets to hear about her mom's drunken driving and hospital stay, which she's fairly okay with. So, on top of his daughter getting arrested for a variety of serious charges, his wife in the hospital with severe alcoholism, a damaged car from wife's drunk driving, that'll be fun for the insurance, one vigilante kidnapping people and beating other people to death, another vigilante setting things on fire, and him wanting to talk to the woman whom he apparently is having an affair with, but trying not to save his marriage that seems to be falling apart with all this crap. It seems like this is the night that the universe decided that Jim Gordon needed to be screwed over.
Well, in our defense, you're overly cheery and we were bored.
And so our comic ends with Barbara telling Gordon to call Sarah, that it should help, and he does so. The narration actually subtly, I know, right? Actual subtlety, I was as surprised as you. Calling back to the beginning about needing a place where one can get away from all the noise and problems for a little while. All-Star Batman and Robin ends with a scene that is actually okay, and bringing to mind actual drama and humanity. The only downside is that it's about a man who wants to cheat on his wife, so it's not all great, but I'll take the victories where I can get them, because this comic sucks, and this entire series has sucked! The All-Star line was meant to be an entry point to new fans, similar to the Ultimate line of books, by creating iconic, definitive stories for heroes with top-tier talent working on them. However, only All-Star Superman and All-Star Batman and Robin the Boy Wonder were ever released. While All-Star Superman has its flaws, it is recognized as a massive success in how it showed the best parts of Superman. His kindness, decency, and everything great about the character that made him so beloved an icon. It was so critically lauded that it got an animated straight-to-DVD adaptation written by the late great Dwayne McDuffie. Conversely, All-Star Batman and Robin feels like a sick joke, a parody at best of the characters, lacking any of the elements that made Batman such an enduring character. Critique him for realism, or how his mission is self-defeating, or how he could be more constructive if he used his money in other ways, which he does, but never mind that. But I see Batman as a figure ultimately of how one can rise above tragedy to do good in the world and improve yourself. He is brusque, yes, but not heartless. Aggressive, but not unethical. He drives himself to the extremes he does, sacrifices himself and his happiness at times for one goal, so that no other 8-year-old child will ever have to go through what he did. Sometimes he goes too far, and sometimes he makes mistakes, but that's because he's not a god, nor should he be. He is human. If Superman represents the hope and compassion that humanity is capable of, Batman represents the determination and intellect we are also capable of. Superman's worst foe is Lex Luthor, a wealthy genius who uses his power for evil. But Superman's best friend is Batman, a wealthy genius who uses his power for good. The Batman of this story, however, is not any of those things. He is violent, judgmental, immature, manipulative, self-important, and most disgusting of all, cruel. He is cruel to the people who love him, equally cruel to those he fights against, and he is cruel to the one person he should know better than to be cruel to, a young boy who lost his parents like he did. I finally figured out why we have all those other superheroes in this when this should straight up be about Batman. And the answer is, because it is still about Batman. These other heroes are supposed to be here to be compared to Batman. In this universe, if you don't follow Batman, obey his rules and his methods, you are ineffectual, naive, foolish, unprepared, or driven for the wrong reasons. And as I said back in the review of issue 8, this Batman is reflective of Frank Miller's own ideologies. Thus, the only way he can prop up his viewpoints, his terrible ideas of what makes a hero, is to make other heroes, other ideologies, look bad by comparison. All-Star Wonder Woman and All-Star Batgirl were both in the works around the time this was coming out, unconnected to this book of course, but sadly both projects were never made, nor do I expect to see them come, especially since DC has pretty much revised the All-Star line in favor of the Earth 1 graphic novels, none of which I have read. Hopefully we will never have to see this series be continued again, despite claims to the contrary. Next time, we'll hopefully have something more fun as we celebrate the 20th anniversary of Pokemon. To be continued. Oh dear Lord, I hope not. Hello my friends, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell for notifications on new video releases. If you'd like to support future videos, you can check out my Patreon or purchase a t-shirt via Teespring or Shark Robot. Thanks for watching!